Step forward.
27-year-old Tina Kaplan is suing her ex-roommate, 23-year-old Chad Costalis, for breaking an apartment lease. Chad says he fell on hard times due to health problems.
Miss Kaplan, Mr. Costalis was your roommate.
Yes.
You signed a lease together. Were you involved in a relationship or just strictly roommates?
Strictly roommates.
Great. I never could understand that, boys and girls living together, but that's the new generations of young people. I suppose it's okay. If I have to share a bathroom, I would prefer.
We had our separate.
Better. Then you can live with anybody. Anyway, you signed a 1-year lease. It is your claim that Mr. Costalis moved out with 3 months remaining on the lease.
Yes.
And you want him to pay his share of the rent for those 3 months.
Yes.
Mr. Costalis says that due to circumstances beyond his control, he was forced to move, that he gave you a list of potential roommates for those 3 months, and that the reason that you were left to pay his half of the rent was because you were being nothing less than spiteful in not selecting another roommate. Now, you're going to explain to me why you are not responsible for your half of the rent for those 3 months, Mr. Costalis.
In actually January of '05, I injured my foot, and I had to actually quit my job because I was unable to perform my duties.
How did you injure your foot?
I actually tore a tendon in my foot stepping up on a curb.
What kind of work did you do?
I was a valet.
Okay, and how were you supporting yourself?
Well, at that time, I had to go to the doctor. I'm sorry. At that time, I had to go to the doctor's office, and she told me I shouldn't run on hard surfaces anymore.
Nothing wrong with your brain, right?
No.
What other kind of work did you look for?
I actually looked for jobs waiting tables or busing tables in the area.
Oh, so you could have been a waiter.
I attempted to find a job.
You could have worked at fast food.
It wouldn't have paid the rent there.
Would have paid something.
This is true.
This is true. So it's not that you couldn't work at all, Mr. Costalis. It's that you could work, but you weren't supposed to run on hard surfaces. But waiting on tables, working fast food, all of that you could have done.
I was unable to find a job waiting tables or busing tables.
Mr. Costalis, in what city do you live in?
I live in San Diego, California.
Mr. Costalis, that is something I don't believe, sir.
Okay.
Instead of working and earning a little bit of money, you chose not to work at all.
That's not true. I
don't understand that, sir.
Oh, I was looking for another job, and I also explained to my parents the situation I was in. They said that they would cover my bills up until a certain point, and that...
Oh, that was the first mistake. That was the big mistake. You explained to your parents that you couldn't perform your regular work as a valet, and that you didn't want to get a job working in a fast food restaurant while you were looking for the job of your dreams, so your parents said not to worry.
The case was
we'll take care of it.
The point was that after 60 days of being off the job, I was expected to go back and go back to my duties as a valet. At 60 days, I went back to the doctor to get my clearance, and she would not clear me to go back.
Mr. Costalis, you had an obligation during those 60 days, sir, and during those 60 days, you had an obligation to work. And if your parents were prepared to give you a free ride, that's fine. She's not your mother. That's not circumstantial. Listen to me. If you said to me, Judge, in January of 2005, I had open heart surgery. I was hospitalized and in rehab for 3 months. I couldn't work. That's impossibility of performance. You didn't have impossibility of performance.
The impossibility was that I couldn't possibly work enough hours, fast food, or those other ideas.
How much was your rent? How much was your rent, sir?
$687 was my portion of the rent.
If you worked fast food 10 hours a day.
I am also a full-time student.
Don't speak. What's the minimum wage now? $6 an hour?
$6.25.
Let's say 6 times 10 times 7 equals $420 a week. Times 4 equals $1,680 gross.
Should I have dropped out of school then to take a minimum wage job?
You were asking me that question?
I'm curious if that's what you're telling me I should have done.
I'm telling you, you had a contract. And if what you're prepared to say is, I chose to stay in school and not to work 10 hours a day, that's your prerogative. But you can't use that, Alice, against this lady who was forced to pay your portion of the rent. She's not related to you. She don't love you like your mother loves you.
I understand that.
Good. So that's your responsibility. You don't make choices. Even if you chose, instead of working 10 hours a day, to work 5 hours a day, that's still $800 a month that you could have made, instead of sitting around and watching the American Idol on TV.
Your Honor, I attempted to find her and help her find another roommate. I put an ad online. I received no less than 15 responses to it. I forwarded them to her. She, the whole time I lived there, did not show anybody the apartment.
She says that you didn't move because of your foot. She says you moved out because you wanted to get a dog.
And I have emails of him stating that to me.
Can I see him, please?
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
And I did send him an email in the morning. I had 2 guys coming over to look at the place. And his room was so dirty.
This is a conversation that she and I had that was entirely separate of why I moved out. The conversation she and I had, she asked me, I don't know if it was just impolite conversation, about where I planned on moving to. Because of the area that's near my campus, it's a lot cheaper in rent. And that if that was the case, I would like to find a place to have a yard. That way I could have my dog. It wasn't that I was moving out because of it.
Did you find a place where you could keep your dog?
Yes, I did.
That's good. How much is your rent there?
It's $600 a month.
Instead of $678?
But it includes all my utilities.
And his parents
and
are still
it's
Just a second. Instead of $678, it's
Instead of
$600?
$687, it's $600. It includes all of my utilities. It's only 4 miles from my campus rather than 30, which chewed up a lot of gas.
It's just a second. Mr. Costellas, you were going to school before when you signed this lease.
Exactly.
Don't speak,
Okay.
right?
This is correct.
You're a lot of baloney, Mr. Costellas. You decided to move. You wanted a dog with you. You moved into a place that was not $200 a month. The difference in rent was negligible. You have your dog. You're a little bit closer. Well, that's all very nice, but you can't stick her with the rent. Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,062.50. That's all.
Thank you.
Finch versus Valeri. Parties have been sworn. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. Your Honor, you may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Pinch, how old are you?
24.
According to your complaint, you and the defendant have 2 children together. You are expecting a third. You are unmarried. You live together with the defendant in an apartment in which you both signed the lease. He moved out after you got a protective order against him, and you want the following. You want him to pay for his share of the remainder of the rent on the apartment. You want him to pay half of the medical bills that you had for one of your children who was in an accident. And you want him to pay for the balance on a car that you say he promised to pay. Mr. Valeri says that you threw him out of the apartment, falsely claiming domestic violence. He says that the accident was caused by your negligence to your son because you should have been taking better care of the child. And as far as the car was concerned, the car has always been your car, and he has no intention of paying for it. He is counterclaiming because he says that you filed an order of protection against him. The allegations that you made against him were false. The order of protection was subsequently dismissed, and he wants to be compensated for his expenses with regard to that order of protection. How old are you, Mr. Valeri?
26, ma'am.
And how old are your children?
3 and 1.
Is there any reason why the two of you didn't solidify this relationship you have by getting married? I'm just always interested in this.
Well, basically, we were looking to do that when I had my last son. And then, with this situation that happened, I found out I was pregnant, had the complications with my pregnancy, and at that point in time, that's when he just started seeing other people, and we had the domestic violence problems.
Well, I'm talking about why you didn't get married before you had your first child.
We talked about it several times, but he never had a ring for me, never had nothing.
Just had a baby.
Just had a baby, basically, yeah, unfortunately.
You didn't do that alone.
No, I did that also.
You know that there are things that you can do to prevent that from happening.
Yes.
When did you sign this lease?
That would have been February of 2005.
And where were you working at the time?
MRS Associates, being a bill collector.
And where were you working, Mr. Valeri?
I wasn't working at that time, but I got a job around July, and I was working
Well, what
at
were
J.E.
you doing
Berkowitz.
between February and July? Stop playing with the papers.
I was on parole and everything, and I just
Parole
currently
is not a job.
I know.
Parole is not, as a matter of fact, when you're on parole, you're supposed to have a job.
I know. I was working in between places at the time.
In between what places?
McDonald's. It was hard for me to find a job because
What were you on parole for?
I had CDS charges.
CDS.
Controlled dangerous substance.
Sale or possession?
Sales.
Had you served any time in prison?
Yes, 5 years.
From when to when?
July 2000 till February 2004, almost 2005.
So where were these children conceived?
I got released during a time from a program through prison. It's a halfway house, and I met her after 2 years. Got together. She got pregnant. Planned on staying together.
All right. What was the rent on this apartment?
$650 a month, and he was working at that time.
Okay. Now, when did you have him removed from the apartment? August of 05?
Yes, August of 05.
Tell me what happened.
I came in from work one day. At this point in time, he wasn't working. He had gotten fired for not working. I had no formula for the child. He said he had to go to a friend's house. Needless to say, hours later, he came back drinking. I went out front of our apartment, and he was on a bike at that time, and I stood in front of the bike and, asked me, why would you do this? Our son had no formula. I had to call somebody to watch the kids and find a ride to the store to get the formula. And at this point in time, he was like, oh, well, you can't control me. I said, we needed formula for our child. At that point in time, he proceeded to shove the bike forward, and I fell back into my steps and smacked my head on the steps. I got up and I told him, you're not going to put your hands on me. I'm going to call the police. And he took off on the bike. When the police came, they took the report of the incident, and Andrew did not come back until the next morning.
All right. I'd like to see the report you filed. All right, Mr. Valeri, you want to tell me your version of what happened?
Basically, I had my cousin there. He was watching my son at the time. I had asked her if she could get formula because she was going to work and she was getting it through WIC. My name was assigned on a check, so I had somebody else go get it, which was her. She got the formula for my son that day.
Who was this lady?
This is my girlfriend now, Jen.
So you were watching your children and you had your girlfriend over at the house at the time?
No, my cousin was there.
You said just told me she went to get the formula.
She lives down the street. We were friends at the time. She was friends with her, too.
Okay. So you asked your then neighbor and friend, now your girlfriend, to go get the formula for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume you're going to tell me you went to get the formula for the baby. Fine. And then what happened?
I went out for a little bit afterwards. My cousin said he'd watch my son.
Was she home when you went out?
No.
When you came home, who was home?
When I came in,
Look at me.
When I came home at 5 o'clock, it was Andrew, my son, Devin, and Nathan, my other son.
Where's the cousin?
There was no cousin.
Okay.
At this point in time,
All right.
the
Go
girl,
ahead.
Jennifer's witness, I didn't even know her.
Okay, so you left your cousin, and where did you go?
I went out to a friend's house
To do what?
a little bit.
Well, she's just coming back from work. Well, who's going to do dinner and take care of the kids? Huh? And you haven't worked all day.
No.
So what happened? So you went over to your friend's house and?
I came back. I wasn't drinking or nothing like that. I went over for a little bit, for like a half an hour. I wasn't even gone a half an hour. And I came back, and she started yelling at me, telling me I'm no good, this, that, the third, and just basically discriminating against me, saying what she can. Just
So
get
she
to
was
me.
being verbally abusive to you.
Correct.
Go ahead. Keep going.
She just came to my face, started yelling, cursing at me and everything, pointing at me, so I decided to leave. And I left for the night because I didn't want to come back to it. And I come back, and police are called on me and saying I hit her. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't ever touch her.
My sister was a witness to this. She was walking up the street while this happened. I mean, she can testify to what
Oh,
did
I'd like to
happen.
hear her. Step up. Your last name?
Rush.
Miss Rush, I want you to be very careful when you testify before me. Do you understand?
Okay.
I'm like a truth machine. When I don't get the truth, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Now, I'm telling you that that's true. I want you to bear that in mind when you're telling me what you're going to tell me about that evening in August.
I got a call.
No, don't look down there. You look here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There wasn't...
Andrew Valeri owes for rent, medical bills, and his share of a Chevy Lumina. Andrew is countersuing, claiming he was falsely accused of domestic violence.
You got a call from...
My sister, when she got home from work at 5, there was no cousin there.
Don't tell me what there wasn't.
Okay.
Just tell me the conversation that you had with your sister.
She called me and said that Andy just left and she needed someone to watch the kids.
So what did you do?
I watched the kids for her.
For how long?
Probably for about 45 minutes for her to go get formula. She had to find a ride.
Who did she find a ride with?
I don't know.
Who did you find a ride with?
With my neighbor, Mike.
Mike what?
I don't know his last name, ma'am. It was just a neighbor on the street.
So what did you do? You walked over to the neighbor's house?
Yeah, I walked down to the neighbor's house, and he drove me to CVS, and then he gave me a ride back.
Are you at the same house now?
No,
When did you move out of the house?
October, because I was not able to work.
Just a second. October 2005, you left. Where did you go?
I had to move back in with my parents
So what are you suing for half the rent for?
because I have to pay for half the rent still. I was not able to work because I got injured.
Just a second.
With complications
Nobody
with the
has...
pregnancy.
Just a second. Has somebody sued you for half the rent?
The landlord, I had the documentation.
Has somebody sued you for half the rent?
Not yet, no.
All right. Well, when somebody sues you for half the rent, you come back.
I can't move into a house with my children, man. I'm living in 2 rooms with my 3 kids.
Listen to me very carefully. You did not pay the rent.
Neither did he.
Miss Finch. All right. Thank you very much. You can sit down. I'll get back to you in a minute. Now, leaving the rent aside, because you moved out of the house, something you didn't tell me in your complaint, let us move to what happened with your son, which caused medical bills.
Okay, with my son, I
Look at me.
was giving him a bath, and there was a
When?
situation at my apartment.
When?
The beginning of October.
October, you were still living
Yes,
in the
I was still
apartment?
at the apartment. I didn't leave the apartment until the very end of October.
October, you're living in the apartment, and you're giving your son a bath. Is
Yes.
that the 3-year-old or the
No,
1-year-old?
that was the 5-month-old at the time.
What happened?
The bath ring had tipped over, and he had almost drowned.
Explain to me how that happened.
I had stepped out of the bathroom real quick.
Just a second.
It got conclusive as it was accident in the other courts, so it was an accident. It's already gotten ruled at. So with this, there's been other medical bills that have arose after that for him being sick with colds, with ear infections.
What caused...
That is the bills that I'm trying to get. I can't provide insurance for my kids because I can't work because I have this pregnancy with his other child. So how am I supposed to provide my kids with medical coverage if I can't work because I have a high-risk pregnancy? I can't. So therefore, I can't take my children to the hospital.
Listen, this is a very sad story you're telling me, Miss Pinch. You're telling me a very, very sad story. But the sad story doesn't translate into a contract. Not a contract with regard to the rent, because you haven't been sued by the landlord. He probably is just very happy to get rid of you. And with regard to the baby, I don't care what another court ruled an accident. An accident doesn't happen to a 5-month-old baby who's taking a bath and the mother walks out of the room for a second. What caused you to leave? Look at me. What caused you to leave the room for a second?
Because I was trying to get a phone so I could try to get something to help me pay my rent that I was already, and my electric bill real quick.
Right.
The bathroom was connected. You could see in the bathroom from where I was going to get the phone. It was a brief moment, ma'am. 15 to 20 seconds. No, it's not right. But it was an accident. I had a misjudgment that was not good. And there's nothing I can say. Yes, that was very bad. But I did not mean it. And the problem here is that there's
Stop. Let's get to the car. In whose name is this car that you want him to pay for half of?
Both of our names.
Let me see.
The yellow page is the original contract. The white one is the statement from Friday.
Do you have the registration on the car?
No.
Why?
Because the car was totaled.
Well, why don't you tell me about it?
I was on the way from home from work. There's a torrential downpour, and in order for me to get home, I had to drive through a puddle. When I went through the puddle, the vehicle had stalled. I got it towed home, and the insurance company picked it up and totaled the car out.
That must have been some big puddle.
It was pretty bad around
Let
here.
me hear.
Basically, they said that the engine was hydrolocked. That's a process where water gets sucked into the engine and ruins the pistons and valves and everything.
Did you sign, Mr. Valeri,
Correct.
on this
Yes.
loan? So you want him to pay half of the loan
Yes.
directly to the company?
Yeah, that's fine. That's also with the apartment.
The apartment, you get nothing. You moved out of the apartment. And as far as the baby is concerned, you take care of the baby's bills. Next time, you won't walk out to go to a phone and leave a baby in the bathtub. So somebody else may have found that it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't on purpose. You didn't do it on purpose. But you purposefully left a baby in a bathtub to go out and make a phone call. You purposely did that. That wasn't something you didn't faint. There wasn't an earthquake. There wasn't a lightning strike. You purposely left a 5-month-old baby that almost drowned in the bathtub. You take care of the medical bills. Sir, next time you learn a little bit better. Don't co-sign for a car unless you're prepared to accept responsibility if something happens. Do you understand?
Yes.
I mean, because this woman has the judgment of a P, doesn't mean that you get off the hook purposely. Because two can play this I gotta be careful game. And if you have hooked up with somebody that's got the judgment of the P, you don't have 3 children with her. Do you understand? There are other things that you can do also.
Yes.
Right? You're going to pay half this amount in a check made payable directly to the loan company, not to her, because I don't trust her to take care of it. Directly to the loan company. That means that you have to pay the other half as soon as they find you and find out where you're working. All right. Now, let's get to your counterclaim.
Okay.
You have to pay $2,000 on her claim, and that's to the loan company. Now I'm going to get you back here. Okay, so you're home. It's August. You're watching the babies.
Yeah.
She's going to CVS with the neighbor Mike, whose last name she doesn't know. Move over a little bit that way. Go ahead.
After that, I left again when she got home. And probably later on that night, about 8 o'clock or so, I was coming back because I often stayed there. And when I was walking back, all I saw was Andy on the bike with his back towards me. And Tiffany was straddling the front of the wheels with her hands on the handlebar. And I just saw him push the bike forward, as if he was trying to, get her off. And she fell, towards the side onto the steps. And then he rode off on the bike.
So your sister was holding him as a prisoner by putting her hands on the bike and straddling the front wheel so he couldn't move.
I wouldn't say holding her as a,
yes.
as a prisoner.
Oh, yes. That was her intention, preventing him from moving, according to you.
After being gone for 3 hours and leaving her with the kids.
They're her kids.
She just wanted her to...
Who was supposed to take care of them? Mary Poppins?
Maybe their father for once. I've had to babysit those kids all the time while she was at work, while he left and went and ran and drank and did drugs with his friends.
She picked them. Sit down.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
I was not holding the handlebar. I was standing there and I was talking to him. I was not holding it.
Said, this is what she saw. You were the front wheel of the bike and holding on to the handlebars. And she saw him from the rear. Your witness, and she's not mad like you are outside. Your witness said he was trying to get you off And he did. He started to move the bike forward, and you fell off and hit your head. That's what she said.
But he's saying the situation didn't even happen. He's saying that it never even
This,
happened.
listen to me.
And
Listen
he has
to me.
other prior assault history here.
I don't care.
Do you even
That's
know
not
how many
what we're-
assaults he has?
Listen to
Have
me
you
very
ever-
carefully. You picked him. Not
Yes,
only did you pick him, you
unfortunately.
picked him to father 3 children.
'Cause I
Not
thought he
one.
was a good guy that
not
was gonna be
2,
there for his
but
children.
3. I'm going to get on your counterclaim. What you're requesting, $2,000. That's exactly what he owes on the car. The 2 of you deserve each other. I am convinced that the 2 of you found each other, that there is somebody up there watching and said, these 2 people really deserve each other. The only people that don't deserve the 2 of you are your 3 children. You better start acting responsibly. You are not acting responsibly, madam.
I take care of my children, and I have since day one.
No, you didn't take care of your 5-month-old. He almost died.
And you know what? They're perfectly fine and well taken care of. I'm the only one supporting him. He hasn't even paid his child support. He's $700 behind in his child support. $50 a week.
Miss Pinch,
Is that much to ask for to take care of your
Miss
kids?
Pinch, it is nothing to take care of your children.
No,
it is nothing.
I love my
$50 a week.
children.
Listen to me.
And there could be nothing better
Don't
than my
speak
children.
over me. $50 a week is nothing to take care of 3 children. But I would think twice about having 3 children with a man who just came out of a 5-year prison term for selling drugs. I would think twice before I hopped in the sack with them and made 3 babies. That's something that you did.
You think sometimes people can better themselves. You give people a chance, unfortunately.
Well,
I made a mistake.
maybe so, but after you got together with him, Miss Finch, you said to me he was in and out of work, so after you had your first baby, that may have been a mistake, you went and you had 2 more. Goodbye, folks.
All right, Judge Jessup, step forward.
28-year-old Lisa Smith is suing her sister, Shannon Jessup, for a loan to buy a van and another loan to repair it.
Miss Smith, the defendant is your sister. You claim 2 loans to her. While your sister acknowledges that initially you made these 2 kind loans to her, one was for a used car and the other was to have the used car fixed up so that I guess she could get to and from work or wherever she had to go. She says that you reached an agreement, and the agreement was that you got some sort of a bonus when she was hired full-time at the place where you work.
Yes.
And that bonus exceeded the amount of the loan, and you agreed to cancel the loan because of the bonus. She said that the only reason you're coming after her for this money now is because the 2 of you had some sort of an argument and a falling out. Right? Okay. Tell me, in what month and year did you make these loans for the car and repairs?
It was in September of 2004.
Okay, and we acknowledge that those were loans that were supposed to be paid back.
Yes.
All right. And when were you supposed to pay them back, Miss Jessup?
When I got my taxes, 2006.
What about taxes 2005?
We were moving. We had just moved back to South Carolina, and we were getting our own apartment, so she said we could wait until 2006 when we had gotten moved in. And
Is that right?
no, ma'am. My understanding was that it was going to be 2005 tax
Yeah, it sounds,
season.
that doesn't sound right. That may be in
And-
your head that you wanted it to be 2006, Miss Jessup. Don't try to get over on me because you're not going to be able to do that. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So in September of 2004, when she made the loan, you said to her, when I get my income tax refund, I'll give you the money.
That's correct.
After all these years, there are still some that say you're supposed to be able to get over in a courthouse. All right. So it's supposed to be paid back in April 2005. On or about, whenever you got your tax return refund. Okay. What happened in April 2005?
Well, we had just moved into a place, and I was under the understanding that it was going to be 2006.
You mean you asked her for an extension?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, did you ask her for an extension?
I was under the understanding.
Don't tell me what
that-
your impression was. Use your words. Did you call up your sister and say, I can't give you your money back now because I don't have the money? Could you wait a little longer? Did she say that to you?
I don't recall her doing that. I believe that she probably assumed that I would give her an extension because at the time we were not arguing.
Fine.
And
So that was her assumption.
Yeah.
When did you get her a job with
I
your
got
company?
her a job in 2004, and basically
What year did she get you the job?
I thought it was 2005. I got the job for her in 2004, but she was a temporary employee.
Okay.
And so until she went full-time, I wasn't entitled to the bonus. So actually,
So she started working there in September of 2004 part-time?
yes, as a temp.
Okay. And when were you hired full-time?
August 2005. Which entitled me to the bonus at that point, 6 months from that time. After I've worked 6 months. And it's $500. It's increased to $1,000 now, but I'm not entitled to the $1,000 because that started in January of this year. I'm only entitled to $500.
Okay.
And it's taxed like a paycheck.
Fine. So maybe it's worth about $350
Exactly.
after tax. Tell me the conversation that you claim you had with your sister, Miss Jessup, where she forgave this loan.
Well, we had a conversation.
Tell me when.
It was about August when I got hired on, that if I could just take it out of the hiring bonus, then I would only owe her $300.
You didn't say that in your answer.
Yes, and then it increased to $1,000 starting January. Any employee that's been employed for 6 months, they get $1,000.
She says she doesn't get $1,000 because it increased in January. You started to work in August of '05. Show me the regulation where it says that she's going to be entitled to it.
I checked with HR and I don't. I get $500.
I'm sure she does. Well, it's very clear, Miss Jessup. Don't you read? It says, effective January 1st, we are increasing our referral bonus from $500 to $1,000. The new rate is effective for applications received on or after January 1st, 2006. You were already working there.
Exactly.
Well, I thought it was for anybody that became an employee
Well,
after 6
I'm
months.
asking you.
2006.
Don't you read?
Yes, ma'am.
It says the new rate is effective for applications received on or after January 1st, 2006.
I guess I misunderstood what it had
I guess
said.
you did. Give it back to her, please.
In addition to that, Your Honor, we never had an agreement like that.
Absolutely not.
For me
Why
to-
would she make an agreement with you?
Yeah, because I needed...
Just a minute.
Well, at the time, we were not fighting. When we had talked about it, she said that was going to be fine.
No, I don't believe you. Miss Jessup. Nose is going to start to grow. You owe your sister $880, and you should say thank you.
I have said thank you many times. I watch her kid, whenever she asks me to, for free.
Well, of course, you have the child's aunt.
Well, I only get to see one of her kids, but
Whatever.
I've helped her. I've helped her out lots of times.
Good. Did you ever help her out with money?
Not that I recall, no.
Did she ever help you out with things other than money?
No.
Never.
Got you a job.
Just a second. What about that?
She put my name in, but because of my hard work, I got the job.
Just a second. She put your name in. They didn't know about your hard work until after you worked there.
I went and applied at a temp agency that she told me that they hired through.
Whatever. I
That
mean,
was the
that's-
extent
And
of
begged
her
my
getting me
sister
my
to
job.
employ her.
As my granddaughter would say, with attitude. Whatever. Say thank you and make up with your sister. You look like two nice girls. It's very sad that you're fighting. What were you fighting about?
It's a family disagreement.
boyfriend.
My boyfriend she doesn't like, and
It treated her very, very badly.
Miss Jessup,
Personal.
listen to me. Listen to me. It's always a good idea to keep your nose out of other people's bedrooms.
I
Listen to
agree.
me.
I
No,
agree.
listen to me.
Thank
Don't
you.
try, Miss Jessup. It's very difficult, sure, for sister. It's very difficult for a parent. Is you worry about what's going on in your own backyard, and don't look into somebody else's bedroom and try to figure something out. So, what you're supposed to do as a good sibling is to be there and be supportive.
And I was.
No. Not judgmental, supportive. Put your hand down. Put on your listening ears.
Yes, ma'am.
If your sister is, in your judgment, making a mistake with this guy, she probably is. Because more than 50% of the time, we do make mistakes. So she probably is. Miss Jessup, you have children?
Yes.
How many?
2, and 1 on the way.
And do they all have the same fathers?
Yes.
You got to think about that for a minute. I wouldn't have to think about that.
Well, one of them's my stepdaughter. We've had custody of since she was 3. My son is ours, but it's all the same dad.
Okay. So one is a stepchild, which means your husband made a mistake.
3.
3 mistakes. Well, and you married him anyway.
I did.
Well, so that says something about you. If I were your sister and I say, listen, he had 3 mistakes, right? You have a stepchild now that you're taking care
3.
of. 3 stepchildren that you're taking care of.
Oh, I take care of one, but the others come to visit.
Listen, I could imagine your sister saying, what are you, nuts? What are you,
But he
crazy?
treats me good. There's
Listen
a
to me.
difference.
Listen to me. You speak to his last 3 exes.
I do. They love me.
They love him.
No, they love me.
They may love you. Sure, they love you.
They don't like him.
Sure, they love you.
Yes,
So listen
please.
to me. So you see, people make mistakes.
I understand.
But what you're supposed to be is supportive. And if he doesn't treat her well, that's her problem. And eventually, she'll pick up, if that's true. But you're not supposed to be judgmental. You're supposed to hug each other and kiss each other and be supportive and pay her $880. Thank you. That's it.
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
I am so glad that I'm finally going to get this money, and hopefully, if
Number 564 on the calendar in the matter of Buckingham Kelly versus O'Keefe. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Buckingham, this is your daughter, I assume.
Yes, ma'am.
And this young man used to be her boyfriend.
Correct.
Your complaint, what are you laughing at?
Never dated, ma'am.
You bailed him out of jail.
Correct.
And you want him to pay you back.
Correct.
And Mr. O'Keefe says, thank you very much. He never asked you to bail him out. He doesn't know your dime.
Correct.
How did you know him? He's not related to you, right?
Right.
So, if he's not your daughter's boyfriend, why in the world would you bail him out of jail?
He called me crying from jail about
Well, how did you...
one night.
He didn't get your number randomly. How did you know him?
No, ma'am. He had an interest in my daughter, and we also worked together.
When you said that mean?
They went out to dinner. She spent time at his place. He would come pick her up. They would go to the show.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you think he was a boyfriend of yours?
We dated. We were seeing each other. You know, that's the impression that I got. We all worked together, and he was leaving me notes on my desk and things like that, you know.
What kind of notes was he leaving on your desk?
Just like, you look cute today, let's go out later. And, like, that was on a daily basis. I mean, to me, it became pretty apparent that we were seeing each other. We were exclusive. I wasn't seeing anybody else. And as far
Did you have an intimate relationship with him?
No.
Well, maybe that's his problem, you see. Because maybe he thinks that unless you have an intimate relationship with somebody, you can't call him a boyfriend. Is that what you think, sir?
Yeah, I never dated her.
Well, what does that mean?
Together.
What does a date mean to you? Did you take her... Listen,
Dating
look,
to me is...
Look at me. I'll ask you questions better, and then maybe I'll let you talk. Did you take her out for dinner?
No, we never went out for dinner.
Did you take...
He did. Multiple times he took me out to dinner.
Refresh his recollection. Maybe he has short-term memory loss. Where did you go for dinner?
The time when the place, there was a seafood place, it was closed, and then we went down, we went to Ponderosa, it was the only place that was open.
And
we went and saw a movie
Ponderosa
together.
with her?
The Ponderosa we went to during a work get-together.
How many people went?
At least 10 to 12.
Nobody was there except me and him, and every place was closed, and our work gets off at 4. No place was open. They were like one of the only places we had to go.
So he didn't think you were having a relationship, but you thought you were having a relationship, and you all worked together.
Correct.
So he called you crying from jail. When?
It was March 29th, 10:30 that evening. He had not showed up for work for several days. We all at work had become concerned that he had not called in.
Where did you work?
For a high school advertising agency in Crown Point.
Did you call her at 10:30 at night on the 29th of March?
I did, Your Honor.
What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
He was crying. He was upset. He said, I've been arrested. I wrecked my motorcycle. You've got to help me. You've got to get me out of jail. I can't get a hold of my mother. I can't get a hold of my father. I did know his parents were divorced based on the relationship he had with my daughter. And he said he needed help. He needed bailed out of jail. He thought it would be about $4,500. He asked me if I could help him. He was concerned about losing his job and therefore losing his apartment. And he gave me his Social Security number, his father's name, and his attorney's name, and asked me to please call and please help him and bail him out.
Did you have his Social Security number?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
Would you like for me to read it to you?
I would.
It is 51.
And he gave it to you on the phone on the 29th of March?
Yes, ma'am.
Incorrect.
Okay. Shh. I'll get to you. Did you try calling his attorney?
I left his attorney a voicemail. By this time, it was about 11 p.m., and my daughter and I went to the police station, got a bail bondsman, which I have...
On the 29th?
Yes, ma'am. I have his business card here, along with the bail bonds.
How much did you have to give the bail bondsman?
$4,500.
Okay.
Mr. O'Keefe had told me on the phone that he thought the bond would be about $450 for 2 unpaid traffic tickets. After I put the $4,500 on my Visa card, I found out there was forgery charges, there was driving while suspended, resisting arrest, theft. And I knew none of that before I put the money on my credit card and the bail bonds were given to me.
Did you appear in court, Mr. O'Keefe, on the 8th of April?
I did, ma'am.
And what happened to the forgery and theft charge?
They were dismissed.
And what happened to the other charge, the resisting, reckless driving?
I believe they were amended with no license in possession.
And what happened on that charge?
I don't recall. I just believe that they were amended. Nothing ever happened from it.
Well, did you pay a fine, sir?
Yeah, I
It's a
paid
year
fines,
ago.
yes.
Well, then you pled guilty.
Yes.
Either you plead guilty, plead not guilty, you go to trial, you take a plea. There are very few options. So you pled guilty. Do you have a certificate of disposition of dismissal on the forgery and theft charges?
I would be able to get them, yes.
Well, today's the day, sir. Today's the court date.
I understand.
What arrangement, Miss Buckingham, did you make with regard to the repayment of this $4,500 bail?
He told me on the phone, if you can bail me out of jail, you'll have the money back within 3 days. I have over $2,600 saved at my apartment in a coffee can. It was the 29th of March of '05. He was getting ready to send in his taxes. He said then he would have the rest of the money from his tax return and that I would have the money back. If he did not get enough money back from his tax return, that his father would help.
Well,
pay the bail bonds.
But originally, Miss Buckingham, didn't he tell you that he thought the bail would be about $450?
Correct.
So why was he talking in terms of $2,600?
I have no idea.
I didn't even know how much my bail was. Had I known it would have been that much, I would have never even asked my parents to get me out of jail. You know, I would have sat there.
On the 29th of March, how many phone calls did you make?
I believe 3.
The first one was to whom?
To my father.
And what happened with that phone call?
My father owns a bar, and being the owner of the bar, he was unable to leave the bar to come get me.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with somebody.
But the only person that I did get in contact with that night was Miss Buckingham.
No. That's not what I asked you. I said I want you to tell me the conversation you had with your father.
I said that I had been arrested. I'm at Lake County Jail. Can you please come bail me out?
And he said, sorry, I can't leave my place of business.
Exactly.
Cross out father. Who was the next person that you called?
The next person I called was my mother. Was unable to get a hold of her.
And what was the purpose of the call to your mother after the call to your father?
The same, to let her know that I was there and if someone can come get me.
No mother.
Correct.
Then you called the plaintiff.
Yes.
What'd you call the plaintiff for?
She was also a co-worker.
What did you call the plaintiff for?
To let her know that I was in jail and to let her know work that I would be...
Baloney!
obtained.
You can't even say that with a straight face, O'Keefe. You can't even say it with a straight face because you didn't figure out where I was going. You didn't figure out until it was too late.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So your father didn't come in.
Jennifer Kelly claimed Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, Ryan O'Keefe, owes for bail money. Marie claims Ryan was crying when he called her from jail.
Well, let's see the pathology of what you did that evening. You called your father in a panic and said, can you come and bail me out? And your father, who was probably had it up to here with you, said, I'm working. I'm not coming to bail you out. Then you start to sweat, and you call your mother to, according to you, come and bail you out. You can't even get her on the phone. Then you say, well, now I'm going to do the responsible thing. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to call Miss Buckingham and tell her, please tell the boss I'm not able to come to work. You haven't been at work a whole day.
Right.
But please tell the boss I'm not able to come to work tomorrow. I don't want to lose my job. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds, Mr. O'Keefe?
As ridiculous as it sounds, I wouldn't, not that jail is the best place to be, it is not. I would have sat there and sat my time out to meet with a judge to get a bond reduced or until I got a hold of someone.
Well, you got a hold of your mother and you got a hold of your father, and your mother didn't want any part of you.
My father would have come within a few days or so.
Your father didn't want any part of you.
He couldn't come.
He didn't want any part of you. He owns a bar. How big a bar?
Pretty good sized bar.
Pretty good sized bar. How many employees does he have?
6 to 8.
He could send one of his employees. All I know is if I got a call from my son who had never been in trouble before, and he said, come and bail me out, I wouldn't say I'm very sorry. I'm doing a television program. You'll have to sit there and wait till I'm finished. And I got news for you. A lot more people depend on me than depend upon your father.
Understand.
So your father didn't come and get you because he's had it up to here with your nonsense. Because if you had outstanding warrants, sir, and you had outstanding warrants, your father has come and bailed you out before, and you haven't shown up.
He's always,
he hasn't, and that's what happened. He came, bailed you out before, and you blew off court, which is why they issued warrants for your arrest. Your father said, you sit there. And you called your mother. You figured maybe I get to my mother. Maybe my mother will feel a little bit softer. But don't tell me you called her and just told her, please report to the boss that I'm not coming to work the next day. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think that you're used to getting over on people. And it seems to me that your parents have had enough of you. So has Miss Buckingham. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,500.
Versus Zimmerlink, step forward, please.
Stephanie and Michael Zimmerlink are suing Michael's son, Coulter C.J. Zimmerlink, for a loan to pay his college tuition. Coulter says the couple should pay for his schooling.
Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerlink, this is your son, sir, and your stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been married for a very long time. The children have always been in your custody?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to your stepson for college tuition. You actually took out a loan for him for college tuition with the understanding that he would pay you back at the rate of $50 a month. He has not done so. You want the loan repaid. Your stepson says that it was a gift, that you've helped his younger brother, who is still living at home, with his tuition, and there is no reason why you should not, as parents, help him with his tuition as well. He views this as a gift. How old are you, Coulter?
I'm 23 years old.
How long have you been in college?
This will be my senior year next year, starting next fall. So that would be my 5th year.
When did you start college?
2002.
Where did you go after high school?
I went to Penn State, New Kensington on a basketball scholarship, and I transferred from there to St. Mary, and that's where I'm currently at.
Why are you in school for 5 years?
When I transferred from Penn State, not all of my credits transferred.
You graduate from high school when you're 18.
Correct.
And you're going to be 24 when you graduate from college.
Yes, ma'am.
That's more than 5 years.
Next year it would be my 6th year.
Right.
So when I had originally transferred from Penn State, New Kensington to University of St. Mary, not all of my credits transferred over. So I had lost 24 equivalent to a year in college.
A little shy of a year.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you transfer?
For a few different reasons. Mostly was financial reasons.
All right. Ms. Zimmerling, tell me what happened when Coulter called and asked you for this money.
Well, he called in, he said, I'm really needing a loan and I can't get it in my name. So he said, could you help me out? I said, sure, of course. He said, I'll pay you back. It doesn't matter, just if you could do this. I said, for sure. Not a problem. For school? Absolutely.
So?
I got the loan. I have the date that it was done, and he got the money and paid for his school and paid the payments.
How much were the payments?
$50.46, something like that.
A month?
A month.
Okay.
And then in June, he had asked for his tax returns, because we had been doing them for him. And
because you were working also?
I was working, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And so he originally said, I'm going to come home. Could you get me a therapist for his knee? He pulled his ACL, or he had surgery for his ACL. He then said, you know, I need to get a job and I need to make sure that I have a place to stay and so on and so forth. Sure, not a problem. Come on down. I'll make the arrangements. At the beginning of June, I get a phone call, and he said, I'm not coming. I'm going to Mary Jane's. And I
That's
said,
his girlfriend?
No, that's his aunt. That's his biological mother's sister.
Sister. Okay.
And I said, you know what, CJ, you made me go through all hoops to do this stuff for you, and then you just call me. This is like the second time you've done this to me. This is ridiculous. But fine, whatever. I just don't even feel like talking to you. At the end of June, calling happily, hey, Mom, blah, blah, blah. Need my taxes, got it. Can you get it to me? Sure, sure. So I emailed him to his email address and never heard from him since.
What happened, Coulter?
I had my uncle who also does taxes. I had him originally look at my tax information, and from his recollection, I was supposed to receive over $300 back. And when my parents usually do my taxes, so I'd then send it to them, and then I ended up owing money, which they said that they had paid for me. It was $50 or $60, and that didn't really make sense to me.
Well, they couldn't have cashed a refund check for you, sir.
No, ma'am.
So you think that they just didn't do your taxes right?
I'm not sure how they claimed it or
what does that have to do
whatnot.
with this loan?
I don't know how that is really relevant. What she was speaking of is why I didn't come out in the summer.
Well, I want to know why you stopped making the payments on the loan.
Because I financially did not have the money. I was a full-time student, and I play basketball on a scholarship, and I have to honor that scholarship. And that leaves me with really small, limited time to work and to have money to pay.
Did you explain that to your parents?
I did.
You did? You said,
Yes,
I really don't have enough money to pay back this $50 a month?
Yes, ma'am. I was making the payments, and I did call them and let them know I couldn't make the payments any
Is that
further.
right?
That is incorrect.
Who did you speak to when you called?
My stepmother.
That is incorrect. He never called and said, you know what, I can't make the payments. He was angry because I told him I didn't appreciate the yanking of my chain when he made me do all these things to make sure he could come into San Diego for the summer, and then didn't appreciate the words that I gave to him. As far as, you're using me, I feel like you're a user, and that's why he hasn't contacted me or spoken to me since.
Well, the language, Mrs. Zimmerlink, is a little harsh. Is it a little harsh? Are these two stepchildren your only children?
Yes.
Well, you can't be so sensitive, madam.
The reason...
I'm telling you, you can't be so sensitive, my dear. If I reamed out my children for every time they said they were coming over for dinner and I went out and prepared a meal and all of a sudden I got a call and said, listen, something came up and I can't be there. My girlfriend, my wife, my buddies want to go out and whatever, and I'm sitting there with a big... It happens. True. Put your hand down.
Yes, ma'am.
It happens. And what, quite frankly, Ms. Zimmerlink, I don't understand is that if he's going to graduate from college and if he's been on a partial basketball scholarship, why you as parents would not assume the responsibility, if you could, for his tuition payments until he was able to graduate and start paying it back, even if it is a loan. Let him start paying it back once he graduates, because he's clearly not paying his full tuition if he's on a partial basketball scholarship. Is his tuition costing you anything?
No.
Well, then that's a freebie, and going to wind up without paying any tuition, room, and board for them because they managed to take care of the rest of it themselves. $50 a month is a bargain. I would bend down and kiss the ground if I could have gotten away with that just once out of 5 kids. I think you got to lighten up on this boy.
Absolutely. My words were harsh.
Words were harsh, and I would say to you that what you have to do is let him graduate next year and let him start paying you back the money, the $50 a month.
That would be fine, but I received notice from his college that he's no longer enrolled.
Oh, different story. Is that true?
That is true, ma'am. I have an explanation.
Go ahead.
As far as honoring my last year of my scholarship, you have 10 full-time semesters to play 8 semesters of sports. I had to redshirt this year because like she said, I tore my ACL, so I was unable to play this year. So I was full-time student in the fall this year, but for the spring, that would have been my 9th semester, leaving me with only one more full-time semester to be eligible for basketball, and that would leave me to only play half the season. So for me to honor my scholarship, I had to be less than a full-time, so I could be a part-time student now, and that is why I'm not.
So you're a part-time student now?
I am actually not taking any classes.
Well, then what are you doing? Are you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, then you have to pay him back. Then you have to pay him back, because it was clearly a loan, and I was going to prevail on your father and on your stepmother to at least give you the next year to pay back this loan, because I thought that that would be reasonable. Not necessarily contractual, but reasonable.
Absolutely.
However, if you're not going to school and if you're working, you can pay him back now. How much is left on the loan?
$3,221.89.
All I can suggest to you is if he starts to go to school next semester, if he's going to school, it means he wants to do something with his life. So I would certainly encourage him. Once he starts to do that, I would certainly open up the spigot a little bit, give him a little bit of financial help. But while you're working, you have to pay it back. Got it?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,221. That's all. Thank you.
Why did you excuse? You may step out.
Most of the reason was over money, yeah.
It is unfortunate.
Family's important, and it's something everyone should have.
I just wish he'd understand that we do care about him.
This isn't really a...
Your granddaughter, and the co-defendant is her husband. And it is your claim that several years ago they asked you to co-sign a car loan for them. You did that, and over the course of the several years that they had the car, they did not make all the payments. You made a lot of the payments. They were in some financial difficulty. Ultimately, the car was repossessed, and there was a payout that you made in order to ensure that your credit remained intact, and you want your granddaughter and her husband to take responsibility for that.
Yes, Your Honor.
And their defense is that this car was a gift. Your granddaughter says that the whole reason behind this lawsuit is because you want custody of her older child, not her husband's child, but her older child, who, according to you, you raised for a considerable period of time, and you don't believe that they are taking proper care of him.
Yes, ma'am.
It's my own interest. Our son's name is Teddy, according to your complaint. When was Teddy in your custody?
Well, I had him every weekend, and I had him all summer.
Why?
Well, my mother had helped her raise him while she was alive. And when she passed away, I told her I would make sure he was taken care of right.
How long have the two of you been married?
6 years in August.
You have children together?
Yes, ma'am. 3 boys.
Plus Teddy, he makes 4.
What do you do for a living?
Construction worker.
And you?
Housewife.
You make a good living?
Sometimes.
You have a lot of children to take care of.
Yes.
How do you support them?
They have everything they need, Your Honor. I mean, they get some stuff they don't need, and some stuff they want they don't get. But there's always food. They have clothes.
They have the necessities. They don't have...
They don't have some of the luxuries, but they have the necessities they need to live.
How old are the 3 youngest children?
9 months, 3, and 6. And Teddy is 8.
What kind of car was purchased that's the subject of this case?
A Grand Prix.
Who found the car?
We did together.
Who?
Me and my grandmother.
What about your husband?
He wasn't there.
Did you show it to your husband?
No. She didn't want his name on the car.
They had had one before, and he wrecked it. She bought it out of a settlement, and he wrecked it, totaled it out. No insurance.
So your grandmother didn't want his name on the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was it?
I think it was like $9,000.
$9,999.
Were you working at the time?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing?
Medical billing.
Who are you?
I'm her son.
You have something urgently important to say right now while I'm getting information?
My girlfriend was the one that got her the job, and she had quit in like 2 months.
I didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Why don't you just relax?
Okay.
Okay, so you went looking with your grandmother, and your grandmother said, I don't want his name on the car.
Right.
And I'm going to buy you a present.
The car was actually to be paid for outright cash out of an I-bond that was left by my grandmother, and she couldn't cash the I-bond in. So the next best thing for her to do was to co-sign for the car.
Just a second. An I-bond that was purchased for whom?
I believe it was for Teddy.
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
Who was it for?
Who was it for?
It was in my father's name and my name.
So it was your money?
Right.
And this was a gift to you that your grandmother was going to pay for?
I was going to make payments on it.
Oh. That's not what you said.
Right. It was the gift that she was getting it in her name and on it. But when the time came and I could not make the payments, she told me she would make the payments.
Just a second. That's what we're getting at now. Because what I didn't understand was when you said your grandmother bought this car for you as a gift. She bought it for you as a gift. Why would she co-sign a loan for you?
Right.
If you took out the loan and all she's merely doing is ensuring payment,
right,
then she's not giving you a gift, madam.
Right.
So it was purchased. You were supposed to make the payments.
Yes, ma'am.
And you stopped making the payments.
Yes, ma'am.
You stopped making the payments because?
I couldn't afford it.
So what'd you buy it for?
Because at the time I could afford it.
Well, if you couldn't afford it, why didn't you sell it?
She didn't want to sell it.
She didn't want to sell it, or you didn't want to sell it?
I didn't care. I told her to take the car back. She chose to make the payments, and her response to me was she thought I would sign custody of Theodore over to her.
Yes, and when did she say that to you?
She said that to me many times and many occasions. I don't know specific dates or specific
When
times.
we couldn't make the
when
payments,
we couldn't make
Your
the
Honor,
payments.
is when that all came about, that she was trying to get us to send her oldest son over to her.
She was
You don't have an older son. That's her son and her
But
grandson.
it's-
Great-grandson.
He's been my son since he was a year old, Your Honor. He doesn't know no other person but me.
He knows her.
That's fine. What about the other
He
three
knows, just a minute. He knows her.
I grant you that, but my other 3 children don't. She has nothing to do with them
And-
because they're mine.
They're her
that's-
biological grandchildren?
You're absolutely right. It's sometimes hurtful when grandparents favor one child over the other. But that doesn't mean that you cut your oldest son off from his grandmother, because that's stupid.
I agree.
That's stupid.
I agree.
Okay, listen. You can make up all kinds of excuses for why you are not going to accept responsibility for this car. Bottom line was, you asked your grandmother to co-sign a car loan for you. You were going to make the payments, and you didn't make the payments. She got stuck paying the car off, and you've got to pay her! Now, what was the payout that you agreed
Your
to?
Honor.
I'm speaking.
I have evidence.
Go ahead.
When the car was finally paid off, she went to our lawyer that we had the agreement that she was going to first file bankruptcy, and he was going to charge her a very cheap price. Well, she did not file bankruptcy. She paid the car off for $3,000.
$3,000.
She came and got me the day that she took the check out there and told me to go with her to take the check out there. The car was never mentioned again. No payment for the car was ever mentioned. Then on April 30th, when I had to call the police to have my son removed from there, she filed that following Tuesday, which was May 2nd, for this.
So?
No.
So this is
So what's your evidence?
On January of 2004 is when she paid off the Grand Prix.
When she paid off the Grand Prix.
So what are you telling me?
Okay.
In June 2004,
she traded her own vehicle in for us another car because we were never supposed to pay her back.
Now she wants you to pay her back. Listen to me very carefully. Now she wants you to pay her back. If you're talking to me about her motive for wanting you to pay her back, that her motive is now that she's being vindictive, right? If that's what you're saying, that comes into the category of too bad.
Judge Judy continues, and her granddaughter and her husband owe for a car. Shannon and Joseph Belials claim Yvonne is suing them because they won't let her see their son.
Madam, bottom line is, it was your responsibility to pay for it. Not a defense.
And
that's not a legal defense.
And chose to give us another one to trade her own vehicle in.
I don't care. So she's being very nice to you. All of a sudden she decided not to be nice to you because you weren't nice to her. She's entitled to do that. I don't look at her motives. Bottom line is, you said in the answer,
right?
In your answer, you said, this car was given to us as a gift. About 4 years ago, plaintiff offered to buy us a car. That's what you swore to. We told her we couldn't afford to make the car payments, but she was insisted. Well, that's not what you told me a moment ago, madam. Moments ago, you told me that it was your intention to make the car payments. You were working. You had a job. You went with your grandmother. She co-signed for it. So, which way is it?
Well, she was making the payments, yes. Yes, she was making the payments.
Grow up.
Okay.
You're grown up enough to have 4 children. Grow up and take care of your responsibilities.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to do. Listen to me.
No.
You're grown up enough to make 3 children. You're grown up enough to take care of your responsibilities. While you two were married and making 3 babies together, you didn't have enough money to make the car payments on a car that she was driving around in. So instead of making 3 babies, you should have made 2 babies and got a second job. I'm speaking. That's what you do. If you can't take care of your bills, you don't make another baby. If you can't take care of your bills, you get another job if you have 2 children. Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $3,000.
In the matter of Huntley versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Huntley, you met Miss Wilson on the internet.
Correct.
And you had a relationship with her. You are suing her for the return of some personal property. Some property you stored in her garage, some was taken into the house. The relationship failed. You went to get your stuff. She gave you the stuff in the garage, but not other things that you say she has that belong to you that are in the house. Now, Miss Wilson says whatever in the house is hers, and she is counterclaiming because she says you deposited your 2 sons at her house over a summer, gave nothing towards their support. She believes she should be compensated for the money she spent on your children, babysitting for the summers. That's your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Wilson, let me get to the counterclaim first. You cannot modify an agreement after an event happens and say, I should have, could have, And if I was smarter, I would have gotten an agreement from him to pay me for feeding his kids. You took his children into your house because you thought you had a relationship that was going somewhere. Is that a fair statement?
To an extent, yes, ma'am.
And he never promised to pay you for taking care of his children. Also a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
So you cannot convert that now into a lawsuit. So let's get to the property. What property, sir, do you believe Miss Wilson has that belongs to you?
There's dining room sets, there's my clothing I bought.
Let me see.
And there's also...
No. All right, let me deal with a couple of things first. What's a wedding ring set? Whose wedding ring set was that?
I bought her the wedding ring set when I proposed to her and gave that to her.
You have those?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Where are they?
I put the engagement ring that I had on my finger, it went in a Ziploc baggie, and it went in the box with his computer that was put out in the garage. And I believe that the box and the band set was in the nightstand drawer that belonged to him that was upstairs that was put out in the garage. I had no reason to keep the stuff. It didn't mean anything to me.
Well, what stuff did you actually keep that he brought into the house?
All that I have in my possession that I did forget to put out in the garage is a bread box that belonged to his mother.
Let me ask you this question, sir. You sat down and you went through everything that you might have purchased. A rock oil candle for $15?
Correct.
A Native American potty, have that?
Pottery.
Well, it doesn't say pottery, it says potty. That's what it says. Well, that bird, that's what it said. Look.
A Native
American potty, hand signed. $35. A Native American planter with a cactus, a water pitcher, a Harley-Davidson coat with a liner. You have that?
No, ma'am, I've never even seen that. 2
black leather vests, a rock waterfall for $20, an alarm clock for $12.99. Shh. I don't know why you're here for $700 worth of stuff. You leave your 2 kids at her house for a whole summer?
You know,
I'm asking you a question. Did you leave your kids at her house for a whole summer while you were off
no,
working?
I did not. They were there for
How
20
long?
days.
For 20 days?
Yes.
How old are your children?
13 and 15.
How much money did you give her to take care of your children?
When my living arrangements changed, the boys were already at home, and she offered to keep the boys up there.
I didn't ask. Why don't you just answer my question? For the 20 days that the boys lived with her, how much money did you give her to take care of them?
When I came up on Friday evenings, because I drove 3 hours on weekends to come up there.
That's not a figure. I want a figure.
0.
0. So why would you bring a lawsuit for this kind of junk? A CD for $13.99, 6 reams of computer paper, $12? I mean, it's so petty. It's absolutely so petty, considering that this person who's a stranger to you took care of your children, provided a home, provided them with food. I don't understand what would motivate you to sit down and figure out the things that you bought. 3 antique cars, $15. 1 alarm clock, $12.99. It's ridiculous.
And when I spent the week and took my 2 boys, her and her granddaughter, to Washington for my mother's funeral, I paid for the whole trip, all the money, everything, and didn't ask her for a penny.
Well, that's wonderful. So they all went to your mother's funeral.
Correct.
So what? That's not exactly going to Disneyland, sir. Going to your mother's funeral is not going to Disneyland. You're telling me that what she did for taking care of your children for 20 days is compensated because you took them to a funeral?
No,
That's
I'm not.
ridiculous. All right. Take a look at this list. See if there's anything there that jogs your memory. Because I believe at this point, Miss Wilson, you want him out of your life.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And if you want him out of your life, then I'm going to suggest to you that anything there that you're going to tell me, now that you're looking at it, rings a familiar bell. Mm-hmm. He can have back.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to get annoyed.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's go over the list.
The rock crystals, I believe he's talking about. I have those. He gave those to me. He
Good.
can have them.
He wants them back.
That's fine. The red pot with the bamboo plant, I did have that. It was given to me. He can have that.
He can have it back. Perfect.
The white porcelain tiger with the baby, he found those in a box at his mother's house and asked me if I'd like to have them because I collect tigers. I have a collection.
He wants them back.
He can have them.
Perfect.
The color TV and the remote was put out in the garage, was his stuff. The dark brown rolling cabinet, that was put out in the garage. The oak bread box, I do have that. Butterfly wind chime, I have no clue. The vacuum cleaner, I do have that, Your Honor. He threw mine away, said it was a piece of junk. I did tell him he could have it back when he replaces mine.
Fine.
Brown 4-tier shelf, I don't know what he's referring to there. Or the broken vanity mirror, I don't know.
Okay. Everything except the vacuum. Put it all together.
I'd be happy to.
In boxes. Now, do you want to drop it off someplace, or do you want him to pick it up out of the garage? How do you want it handled?
I have since moved, and I'm out at this time.
Fine.
My girlfriend here says she would meet him somewhere to pick up the stuff.
Where do you want me to pick up the stuff?
Next weekend will be fine.
Give me dates. Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday's okay with you?
That's fine.
Where?
I live in List Center, and I'd be happy to meet him in Battleground.
Battleground.
Battleground is a 3-hour drive.
That's what it is. She's doing you a favor. You want this stuff or not?
Yes?
If you want it, she will arrange to have it there at the police station in Battleground. There is only one police station, I assume, in
Correct.
Battleground?
Yes, ma'am.
12 noon on Saturday. Be there or the stuff is gone. Do you understand?
Correct.
Good.
233 on the count in the matter of Ali versus Dugan. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Ali, it is your claim that you and a boyfriend were at defendant's club and you were, without provocation, assaulted by an employee of his. And the defendant's position is that you were intoxicated and that any injuries that you sustained as a result of your own intoxication. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. When were you at his club?
On May 9th of this year.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
And what do you do?
I go to school and I do customer service.
What school do you go to?
OSU.
What is
Ohio
that?
State.
You a full-time student?
Part-time.
And you work part-time or full-time?
Part-time.
Who's your boyfriend? Is he here?
He's right there.
How old is he?
He's 22.
Does he go to school also?
Yes.
Now, on the 9th of May, who were you at this club with?
I was with him. With
Just the
my
two of you?
boyfriend. Just two of us.
Had you been to this club before?
I've been there once before.
What time did you arrive there?
I arrived there about 11:40.
Where had you been before that evening?
Before that evening, I've been to the movies.
With your boyfriend?
Yes.
And from the movies, you went to the club?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
Okay, at the time when we got there, we were just having fun, just around there, and then it got about 2 o'clock. It was time for everybody to go home. And we were about to leave, and then one of the security guards, he was gonna open the back door for us to leave, and all of a sudden I heard another security guard yelling behind us. He came and he said, "I know you two heard me calling you back there. Why are you ignoring me?" And my boyfriend nicely said that, "I'm sorry we didn't hear you, but we are leaving right now." And then he said, "No, you can't go because I know you were ignoring me and you need to tell me why you were ignoring me." And then he grabbed my arm. And when he grabbed my arm, I yanked my arm off him and told him, "Please don't ever touch me again." And as soon as I said that, he must have got mad and he grabbed both of us and just pushed us against the wall real hard.
Shh, don't say anything.
When he pushes against the wall real hard, like it hurt my back. And then all of a sudden it happened so fast that he hit me and I must have dropped because I don't remember exactly what happened. I heard noises, but I couldn't see. I remember my boyfriend grabbing me. When he grabbed me, we were pushed out from the back door. And then we heard all noises, and I heard my boyfriend call the police and the ambulance for me. And then when the cops arrived, he asked us what happened. And when my boyfriend tried...
Can I see the police report?
Sure.
Is the security guard still in your employ?
No, ma'am, he's not.
What's his name?
I know him as Big Ant.
Big Ant?
Yes.
How long did he work for you?
It's perhaps a year or so.
Well, Mr. Dugan, you pay your employees on the books?
Sometimes.
Did you pay Big Ant on the books or off the books? Look at me.
Yes, ma'am.
On the books or off the books?
It was paid. I do not know if he reported it.
Well, I'm just asking you because if you paid him on the books, then you'd have to have a name other than Big Ant.
Yes, ma'am.
You thought this was going to be easy?
No, ma'am.
It's not going to be easy.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you weren't there that night.
No, I wasn't.
And you don't know what happened. Hopefully...
I was home with my pregnant wife, who was 2 weeks away from giving birth, ma'am.
Listen, they're good for you.
Thank you.
And I hope everything turned out okay. But right now you have this gentleman who I assume wants to tell me what he saw because he was there that night. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be up there in a second. I want you to make sure you got it all straight in your head. You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any other reports that you have?
No, ma'am. I have some pictures of the incident that
I would like to
happened
see
my
them.
eye.
You were treated at the hospital for
my eye. Mhm.
You had a laceration under your eye, according to the police. Somebody socked you in the eye.
Right.
Is that the only injury that you sustained?
Yes.
Tell me your name.
Troy Jones.
On what date did Big Ant terminate your employ?
As of that night, not heard from him since.
When you say as of that night, is that because he didn't return to work on the 10th? Or because you told him not to return to work on the 10th?
He left before the police arrived, or when the police arrived.
And you know that from this gentleman?
He and other employees.
Why did Big Ant take off?
I have no idea, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Jones, how long have you been in Mr. Dugan's employ?
On and off for about 5 years.
In what capacity?
I work with the bands that work there on a particular night, specifically Sunday nights.
What do you mean you work with the bands?
I'm also a member of the band also.
How many hours were you working that night?
I usually arrive at the club early, about 8 o'clock, and then the band usually starts performing anywhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock at night.
When you're playing with the band, do you have any alcohol?
No, I don't drink at all.
Tell me what you observed on the 9th of May.
At around 2:15, we're between 2:15 and 2:30. We asked that security start having people leave the bar because by law, everybody has to be out of the bar by 2:30. Also, what happens is the bar staff will not count any money until all the patrons are out of the bar. Well, they were walking the other direction.
They were walking in what direction?
Toward the side door, which is basically like an emergency exit. Big Ant is telling them, hey, you got to go out. We have to leave now. You have to go this way. Well, he said it 5 or 6 times. By the time he gets up to them, they get together. Some words were exchanged. I don't know exactly what was said, but all I know is I seen a hand come up, which looked like a female hand. He was scratched, and there was a ruckus in between her and her boyfriend and Big Ant. And it wasn't a punch. It was more or less like an open hand smack like that. But he's a big guy, so it may have caused some damage. But it looked like she attacked him first.
Well,
That's a lie.
You didn't. Shh, Mr. Jones, you didn't actually see that.
Yes, I did. From where I was standing, what I could see, yeah.
Where you were standing, what you could see. Now, you're equivocating. The one thing you didn't equivocate about was you saw Big Ant hit her. It looked like with an open hand somewhere around her face. That you said you saw.
Yes.
Well, an open hand doesn't cause this kind of damage.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I saw what a...
She was punched in the face at Dan Dugan's nightclub. Sarah says the culprit was one of Dan's bouncers.
Okay, let's go back to what you saw at the beginning. You said that you saw what appeared to be a female hand. Is that what you told me?
Yeah, going up like this, coming down at him.
Well, how many females were standing there, Mr. Jones?
It was only one.
So, describe what a female hand looks like, Mr. Jones.
Well, I mean, the female hand is not nearly as big as a man's hand in most cases, is what I think. I could be
So
wrong.
there were 3 people there.
Right.
Is that right? Big Ant, this young lady, and her boyfriend.
Right.
So when you say to me, I saw what appeared to be a female hand, of necessity, it would have to be the plaintiff. Unless her boyfriend has feminine hands. Is that right, Mr. Jones?
Could be, could not be.
Well, I mean, by a process of elimination, if there are 3 people standing there, unless, according to you, Big Ant scratched himself, sir, it would have to be one of the other 2 people.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I'm having too much fun. Now, did you wait around for the police to arrive, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I was still there.
Did you observe the ambulance?
I seen the ambulance pull up, yes.
So you knew that the police were treating this as a serious incident.
Yes.
Is that right?
Well, if they were called, yes.
And if they were treating this as a serious incident, clearly they were treating this young lady as the victim.
Right.
And certainly, based upon what you told me, you observed that this young lady was the aggressor in this incident. Is that right?
Yes, they both were.
No, you didn't say both. I said who was the aggressor. Based upon what you told me, she was the aggressor. Is that right? And you would want to be a good citizen. You are a good citizen, aren't you, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you explain to me how the police report is silent with regard to your statement to the police that she was the aggressor and scratched him?
No policeman ever came and talked to me.
Well, do you think that the police have some sort of crystal ball? If you have information that this employee of the club that you know for a year was the real victim, and there were a lot of people there, you think it's a good idea to go up to the police and say, listen, I saw the whole thing. She scratched him first. Look at his face. Well, the police report doesn't say anything about Big Ant having any scratches on his face.
Well, he wasn't there to make a report.
Even more of a reason for someone who witnessed the whole process to go up to the police and say, listen, the guy took off, but he was really not responsible. She was responsible. She assaulted him. Isn't that right, Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Sit down.
Can I make one statement?
Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Dugan?
I don't think so, Your
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $3,000. That's all.
Had you contacted me, I would have helped you. And I'm really sorry what happened to you. I'm really sorry what happened. Okay? I'm going. Thank you. Thank all of you. Have a good life. She rendered her decision as she saw fit. That's her job.
I think I got what I deserved.
69 on calendar in the matter of Feinstein versus Fairley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Mr. Feinstein, it is your complaint that you were assaulted and your car vandalized while you were at the defendant's bar.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the defendant, although I don't think you were there, is that
No,
right?
I wasn't there.
She says through her employees, I'm sure she has witnesses here, are going to tell me that you were very drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And, well, I gather you acknowledge that you were very drunk, and any injuries that you sustained were sustained as a result of you flailing around and hurting yourself, and they don't know anything that happened to your car. So, what's the name of your bar, pub?
Scotland Yard Pub.
Which of your employees was there that evening?
Justin and Eric.
Stand up, please. And you don't know anything about this of your own personal knowledge?
No, I wasn't there.
You can have a seat. Justin?
Yes.
And Eric?
That's correct.
What is your given first name?
Lucky.
That's what your parents named you?
Yes, ma'am.
Interesting. Are you an only child?
No, there's 3 other siblings.
Are you the first, second, third, or the fourth?
I'm the 4th.
You're the last one.
Lucky to be here.
Got it. This incident happened at the pub.
The 22nd of what?
First, we got to get the date. Questions get harder, Lucky.
7/22, I believe it was.
Had you been to this pub before?
Only a couple times before this.
Immediately prior to the 22nd of July, when had you been to the pub?
Maybe a week before that.
So sometime the 15th, 16th.
Yeah.
Prior to that, when had you been to the club?
Maybe a month previous to that one.
Never had any trouble there?
Never, no.
You have a drinking problem?
No, not necessarily. Yeah, I like to drink, but I don't consider myself having a problem with it, no.
Well, according to you, Lucky, on the 22nd of July of 2005, you were drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
If I had to place a wager, I would say you have at least a minor problem with alcohol.
I would agree with that, yes.
Who do you live with?
I live with my parents.
They still think they're lucky?
I help them. I think that they do, yes, because I help them out.
So tell me what happened on the 22nd, Lucky.
Okay, in the afternoon, I was at my friend's restaurant, which is a couple doors down from theirs.
What were you doing there?
I was eating pizza. They have a pizza place. I've been going there for the past 25 years. And I decided to go next door, and I was advised to never ever go into that place because I would end up in trouble there, because there's always trouble over there. I went over there and ended up there a lot longer than I anticipated. I had way more drinks than I, wanted to have, but I was having a good time, so I kept on.
How were you having a good time?
Well, I was shooting pool, and I was talking to people, and I was buying several people drinks. Then, approximately 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, I made the mistake.
What time did you arrive there?
Oh, maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I had maybe 12 beers there or something like that. I was out of control, I admit that, but I didn't cause any problems. I wasn't obnoxious.
When you say you were out of control, Lucky,
well, drinking-wise.
Tell me what you mean.
Drinking-wise. I overdid it drinking-wise, and I knew that I was drunk, and I wasn't about to drive out of there, to leave, I was going to call a taxi, and I went into the bathroom. That was the mistake I made because the bouncer was in there. No words were exchanged. I looked at him, and the next thing I know, I was out unconscious. And then I found myself in the parking lot, left for dead. When I came to, first thing I saw was him again.
Which one?
This guy here in the black shirt.
That would be Eric.
I asked him for help, realizing that my wallet was missing, and if I could go back in the bathroom to see if my wallet was in there. He said, no, you're drunk. Get out of here. And then he said the police were coming, too. So I said, well, okay, well, I would like to wait for the police and talk to them. The police came, and they just told me that I need to go home, too. Call a taxi, do whatever, go home.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do. Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to see it. Go ahead.
I went over to my truck, my tailgate, and sat there. A couple women came over and were sitting next to me, assuring me everything's going to be okay. A couple minutes go by, and the police come back again, which I was not causing any more problems, that's for sure.
Well, somebody called them.
They were called again.
But they weren't called by you.
No, ma'am.
So they were called by somebody about your behavior.
But I wasn't doing anything.
That's not my question. I said they were called by somebody about your behavior.
They were called a second time.
Oh, okay. Well, this isn't the police report about their call. This is a police report that you made that said that somebody punched you in the mouth and took your property. There has to be a police report of when they responded to their calls. You did call the police, didn't you?
I called the first time.
Who called the second time?
One of the customers that was out in the parking lot.
You have a copy of that police report?
No, I do not.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, so then the police came for the second time, and they said, we're going to take you home. We're going to give you a taxi ride home. And they're very embarrassing to me to be put in handcuffs like I'm being arrested. At that point, I realized that I needed to go to the hospital. My face was puffing up, my back of my head, I was dizzy. So they said, would you like an ambulance? I said, yes, I would very much like an ambulance. I went to the hospital. They sewed my lip up, and then I walked back towards my vehicle, which is several miles away from there. And it was about 2:30 in the morning at that time. I realized that my truck was vandalized. My windshield was busted. My car was keyed around the sides of my car. My tailpipes were kicked down to the ground. And at that point, I realized that I better not say anything to them. And so there was a taxi out in the parking lot, and I was taken home. The very next morning, I went back there, and I talked to the owner, Patrick Sirely, and asked him if he would mind paying my hospital bill because I was beaten up in his establishment.
But you don't know who beat you up.
I'm not clear on that, but all I know is I saw him, and then I was out cold. And then I found myself in the parking lot coming to, and then I saw him again, at my feet, basically. Or I was at his feet.
So who's going to start?
I'll start.
Okay, take your hands out of your pockets and start.
When I got to work that night at 7, he came out to order another beer about a half hour into my shift, and I noticed that he was intoxicated, so I refused to serve him, and he went haywire and slammed his fist down on the bar.
Put your hand down, sir.
Called me a name that I don't think I can say. He started ripping up $100 bills in front of everyone from his wallet. Nobody laid a finger on him inside the bar. I didn't want to get into a physical altercation with him, so I waited till our doorman got on at 9. Finally, when he was put outside of the bar, he kept charging Eric, trying to bust his way back in. I went out to see what was going on. He threatened to get a gun from his truck and kill me, and Eric and everybody else in the parking lot began kicking his own truck, pounding his head into his own truck, and punching into his own truck and other people's cars in the parking lot. At one point, he knelt down in front of Eric, took off his shirt, and said, just kill me right now, just kill me right now. And that's what it seemed like it was going to get to a point where I needed to call the police because people were very angry that he was...
Is that when you called the police the first time?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you drank too...
Night of drinking, he was assaulted by bar doorman Eric Galan. Eric and his co-worker Justin Murphy claim Lucky was out of control drunk.
Okay, Eric, you got on about 9 o'clock?
Yeah, about 9 o'clock, and it wasn't too long until Justin called me over. And I tell Lucky that he was done for the evening, he needed to go someplace else. He asked why. He said, I told him that, you were giving a problem to our bartender. Come back some other night, I'll buy you a beer, and, that'll be the end of it. He got upset and irate, said that he had a gun in his truck, and he was going to start shooting the place up. One of the customers that was sitting outside got upset by that. They started having a yelling match. I got involved. I separated the two. And he continued to threaten people that were around. He said, I was going to come back and get you, shoot you, shoot you. And that's when he tried to bully his way through me. And as soon as he touched me, I just put him to the ground and held him down.
When you say you put him to the ground, how did you put him to the ground, Eric?
Tripped his leg and put him on his back, one hand on his chest, one hand holding his arm. I said he needed to calm down. As soon as I let go of his arm, he swung on me. And I just knocked it out of the way and held him down again. And Justin was outside and said, do I need to call the cops? I said, yes, please call the police officers. I got off Lucky, went inside to make sure the cops were coming. Came back outside after a minute or two, and Lucky was already laid up against the wall at the pizzeria. Now, I didn't talk to Lucky at all in the bathroom. I don't know where that came from. So after he was laid out, he woke up a couple minutes later, and he asked me who knocked him out, and I had no idea who did it. And then he started accusing me that I stole his wallet.
Did you find his wallet in the pub? Did you find your wallet subsequently?
No, Your Honor, I didn't.
The police officers came. They spoke with him. They spoke with me. They said they needed to take another call, but he was going to leave the area. He was walking down the alley. As soon as the cops were out of sight, he came back and continued to talk to some other person who wasn't even there that night.
Where were you when you observed this?
Standing at the door.
You remember any of that, sir?
No, ma'am. I never left that parking lot. I was waiting for the police to come because I wanted
The police came already, sir. They came and they left.
Right, and then they came back a second time.
Right. My question is, why did they have to come back a second time? Why didn't you just leave?
Because I was very drunk. I wasn't about to go anywhere, and I was sitting on my tailgate wondering, what am I going to do now?
Listen to me very carefully, sir. When you're very drunk, it's very, very difficult for court to make a judgment as to the veracity, the truthfulness of what you testify to, and to give any credence to what you testify to. You are asking me to believe you above two people who were working that evening, sober that evening, have a clear recollection, at least according to them, of what transpired that evening, as opposed to believing you, who was so drunk they didn't know on which pole they were at.
Ma'am, I'm saying that they're lying about this whole thing, that he's saying that he didn't give me any more drinks after 7 o'clock at night. I was in there drinking heavily. I was having beer after beer, and they gave me way, way too many beers, in my opinion. I don't think that
How
that's
old are
right.
you?
I'm 41.
So is this what your complaint is, sir, that the bar overserved you?
Yes, ma'am, one thing. I don't think that that should
Eric,
happen.
we started this case by my saying to you, do you have a drinking problem? And you said to me, I don't think so. Maybe a little. That's like being a little bit pregnant. You never have a little bit of a drinking problem, Lucky. Now, if you were 18 years old, I would say, I'm going to nail them, because a bar should know that a kid comes in and you don't serve a kid more alcohol than they can consume. When you're 41 years old, you're supposed to know how much alcohol you can consume and still have your wits about you. And according to you, you were warned. Warned! Don't go in there. There's always trouble in that bar. But when you were at this place twice before, according to you, you had no trouble. So they clear for any reason.
I believe that they do have it in for me.
Explain that to me.
Because mainly there's just Mexicans in there, and they always call me white boy.
Lucky. Did they call you white boy on the 15th of July?
No.
Did they call you white boy the month before that when you went in there?
No.
You didn't change composition from July 15th to July 22nd, did you? You were drunk. Stop blaming the rest of the world. You were drunk. Either you fell, you got beaten up, you don't know who did it, your car got trashed, you don't know who did that. You have to accept responsibility for your own behavior. If you drank too much, it's your fault. Nobody got you down there with a funnel and filled your stomach full of beer. Nobody. You managed to do that all by yourself. If you had gotten into your car and killed somebody on the way home, I would take every piece of property that this lady had.
Which someday will happen.
Just a second. I would take every piece of property that this lady had, because under those circumstances, both of you would be responsible. I'd take every bit of property you had, and I'd take every bit of property she had, because somebody who was innocent got killed. The only one that got hurt that night was you. And you caused that yourself. So deal with it. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Fighters are excused. You may step out.
They're lying. No, I don't have a gun.
Heb, step forward, please.
18-year-old student Nikki Frazier and guardian Sam Suter are suing Nikki's mother, Stacy Hebb, for child support costs. Nikki says her mom won't turn over child support she receives from her father.
Mr. Suter, your complaint is that you and your family were nothing but kind to the defendant. She was having some difficulty, and she was unemployed several years ago. Her daughter and your daughter were friends since grade school, and you volunteered to give her a home.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was 16. How did you do in their home, the Suter home? Did you do okay?
Yes.
Did you graduate yet?
Oh, I graduate in a couple weeks.
What are you doing after graduation?
I want to go to college.
How did you do in high school?
I make good grades.
She's been A/B honor roll all through high school.
Did you apply to college?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because the application fees are like $50 for each application, and my mom told me she'd help me pay for them, but she never helped me pay for it.
So, Mr. Suter, this is your lawsuit. Ms. Fraser lived with you for 2 years, and you got no support for her from her mother. You did not even seek support.
No, ma'am.
But then you found out that Ms. Hebb was getting support for Nikki from Nikki's father, and you feel as if that's unfair.
Somewhat, yes.
This is not rocket science, Ms. Hebb. How long have you been divorced from Nikki's father?
Since she was about 6 or 7.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
Are the other children also the product of this marriage?
No, ma'am.
And how much do you receive from Nikki's father for her support?
$50 a week.
What did you do with the money since 2003?
When she has called and said that she didn't have any food in the house and she needed me to take her to eat, I would feed her. If she's needed personal hygiene items, I've taken her. I've paid her cell phone bills. And I did tell her that I would pay for her application fees. She never came to me and said, I've applied here. And
I'm not worried about college application fees. How do you support yourself? Do you think you have an obligation to support your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
So that the things you bought for her, the few toiletries you bought for her, or paying a cell phone bill, you did that for your daughter because you're her mother. That's what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
The $50 a week that you were getting from her father should have gone to the Suter family.
He never asked for support, or I would have given it to him.
Why does he have to ask? Did you ever say to him, Ms. Hebb, Mr. Suter, I get money for Nikki's support from her father. It's not right that I keep it. I'm going to turn it over to you when I get it.
No, ma'am, I didn't. I instead, like I said, whenever she would call and said that she needed things, I would take care of her.
Well, that's what you did for her because you're her mother. She has 2 parents, a mother and a father. You're the mother. You work. If you have to take care of a few items, if you happen to take care of a few items for your daughter, that's very nice of you. The other $50 a week, if her father knew that she wasn't living in your home, did your father know you weren't living?
He just found out recently because I didn't have his number to get a hold of him.
If her father knew, I guarantee you, her father wouldn't have said, well, I'm going to send her money.
Her father has known. She's gone and seen him since she's lived with Mr. Suter.
I'm just curious. not that I'm taking this for the truth of what you're going to tell me, but just my own curiosity. Did he ever say to you, if he knew that she wasn't living with you, I'd like to send the money to Mr. Suter?
No, ma'am.
Never did?
No, ma'am.
He must have had a lobotomy. Miss Head, this is not a difficult case. It doesn't even test my academic prowess. The last 2 years, your daughter has been living with the Suter family, and you've collected $50 a week, roughly $2,500 a year. The Suters are suing you for $5,000 because that's approximately what you've collected over the time that your daughter has been living with the Suters from her father, and that money should have been turned over to the Suter family immediately. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's all. Make those college applications.
Parties are excused. You make 361 account in the matter of O'Miller versus Chavez Tapia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss O'Miller, it is your claim that the defendants are in possession of a ring that is yours.
That's right, Your Honor.
And it is a ring that left your possession at some point. You don't know how, you don't know when, but you saw Miss Chavez wearing the ring in a store. She was employed in the store. You looked at the ring, and since you say it was a unique ring made for you, you were sure that it was yours. You told her it was yours. You went and got the police. They came back. She said her boyfriend or fiancé had given her the ring several years before. This is the fiancé, Mr. Tapia, who says that he purchased the ring, that he paid $1,000 for it, and you want your ring back or money.
I want the ring.
When did you have the ring made?
In 1991.
By whom?
By Creations in Gold up in Seattle, Washington, and this is the jeweler and her husband that made my ring.
Well, who made the ring? This lady or her husband?
Her husband, and he's since deceased.
All right. Did you work with him?
Yes, we had a store together.
Were you the designer or was he the designer?
I was the designer mostly. He did the fabrication.
Stand up. Did you personally do it or did your husband do it?
We both did.
And you remember this particular ring 15 years later?
Yes, I do.
Where did you get the model from for the ring?
It was our design. My husband made
Can I see the ring, please?
Ring for me first.
What do you mean he made it for you first?
A ring like it.
Just a second. He made a ring for you like this first?
Yes.
And then he made another one for Miss O'Miller?
Yes.
Was she a friend of yours?
We met in a restaurant and she approached me and said, may I look at your ring? And I said yes, and then she asked, I said, my husband and I have the store. And then she came to the store.
Where's the one that your husband made for you?
Right here.
Let me see it.
Yes.
Do you want another one that he made? These were made together at the same time.
I just want to see the one that he made for her. Okay. Well, these are practically identical.
Yes.
Except the gold is different. Yours is heavier. One that she says is hers is lighter. Practically identical. And your husband, did he surprise you with this? Is my question. Did your husband surprise you with this ring?
Yes, he did.
So that you are not telling me the truth. What's your last name?
Grenzner.
You are not telling me the truth when you say that you designed it with him. Because these rings are practically identical. And if what you're telling me is that your husband surprised you...
Surprised me?
Listen to me. Surprised you with your ring, that means that you didn't design it. That means he designed it.
We designed it, but he surprised me, and I got the ring for Christmas. Yes, he surprised me with the ring, but not with the design. That is the truth.
Madam, that's a lot of double talk.
No.
If your husband surprised you with the ring, that means that he designed it and gave it to you as a surprise. A husband doesn't say, I want to surprise you with a ring. Let's sit down and you design it, and then it's going to be a surprise. Husband says, I'm going to surprise my wife for Christmas and give her a ring, which he designed. And then when she came in and wanted a ring similar to yours, two of you may have gotten together and say, well, we can make a ring very similar to mine. It's not exactly the same because this is more weight. This is less weight than yours. You understand that. But you did not design it. Sit down.
Can I show you one that he designed to go with that ring?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
Not necessary. There's nothing unique about this ring. You've been around jewelry as long as I've been around jewelry. This is, may not be exactly the same, but it's not unique. Now, when was the last time, Miss O'Miller, when was it that you actually saw your ring that either is this ring or is similar to this ring?
Approximately about 3 years ago.
Where did you see it 3 years ago?
In my home.
When did you first miss your ring?
Probably about a week after I'd moved.
Which was when?
3 years ago.
Do you have a police report?
I never made a police report because I didn't know at the time it was lost or stolen. I just thought I'd misplaced it, so I didn't call.
Well, maybe you lost it. Is that possible?
Possible.
Did you have a moving company move you?
It was a small moving company that had moved.
So the answer is that you had a moving company move you.
Right.
So 3 years ago, you did not make a report of any stolen property.
Correct.
So you did nothing.
Nope.
Now, where did you buy this ring, Mr. Tapia?
In Indio, California.
Where?
At a pawn shop.
Had you ever been to that pawn shop before?
No, it was my first time there.
Do you remember who you dealt with there?
No, I just remember taking my grandmother with me, and it was $1,000, so I asked her to loan me $500 of it.
You gave him $500?
Yes, I loaned him $500.
Did he ever pay you back?
Yes, he paid me $100 a month for 5 months.
Okay. So?
So I believe that's my ring. I could tell by the flat back. That was one of his trademarks. It's like the one I have now.
Miss O'Miller, this is a legal issue. If I believe Mr. Tapia that he purchased this ring at a store for $1,000, he becomes what we call in the law a purchaser in due course for value, which means this ring is probably worth no more than $1,000. It has very tiny stones. It doesn't have the, I don't know how much you paid for it.
$3,000.
Well, you overpaid. You can give this back to her. Let us say you lost the ring. Let us say somebody else found the ring and brought it to the pawn shop. In commerce, there's a rationale behind this rule. In commerce, unless you're dealing with a car or a boat or a house, which has to be in writing, if you purchase something, and if you purchase it for value, you get the title to it. Now, if Mr. Tapia bought this ring on the street for $50, then he is not a purchaser in due course for value. Then he is on notice that this may be a stolen ring, because nobody sells a ring that's worth $1,000 for $50 unless it's stolen goods. But I believe him, and I believe his grandmother, that they paid $1,000 for this ring. That doesn't mean you get it back.
First of all, his name was not Topia when I was going through all this. His name was Estrada. Then I got a phone call from a man claiming to be a lawyer representing Mr. Estrada. The man that subpoenaed these people with their warrants talked to the lawyer that he's...
Just what kind of warrants? What are you talking about warrants?
Well, you know, when you go and form... How do I say it?
You went to her place of business where she works as a salesperson. You saw the ring. You said, let me see the ring. She showed you the ring. You said, where did you get it? She said, my boyfriend gave it to me. It's an engagement ring. You said, I have a ring like that. I think it's mine. She said, no, it's mine. You left. You went to the police. You brought the police back to her place of employment because that's her counterclaim, that you embarrassed her. Okay, so now we're at a point where you brought the police back to her place of employment and you said, that's my ring, and it must have been stolen. Is that what you said?
No.
What did you say?
I went home, called the police, and said I saw my ring on her finger at Mathis Brothers.
Okay.
The police lady said, he'll meet you in 15 minutes over at Mathis Brothers.
So then you went to Mathis Brothers, and she was there, and she said, it's my ring.
Can I say something? The officer did say it was stolen, that she said it was stolen. But in front of me, she said it was lost.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't know how she got my new...
Claims Teresa Chaidez is in possession of a ring belonging to her. Teresa is countersuing, claiming Maggie embarrassed her at her place of business.
So far, I haven't heard any libel, slander, or defamation. She didn't accuse you of stealing it.
Well, when she brought the cops...
You were embarrassed.
I was embarrassed.
You were embarrassed, but that, you know, that's unfortunate. But she's entitled to do that. She said, it's my property. I want it back. Okay, so...
Then I talked to him, and he said, well, for $1,000. He said, it's probably a ring, and for $1,000 you can have it back. And I said, why should I buy something back that's mine, that I feel is mine?
Is that what you said to her?
No, I said that I bought the ring for $1,000, and if she wanted it, she'd have to pay me $1,000, which what I paid.
Is that what he said to you? Well, that's different from what you just told me, Miss O'Miller.
What did I just say that's so different?
You can have it back for $1,000. That's different from saying I paid $1,000 for it, and if you say it's yours, I'm willing to give it back to you, but you have to pay me what I paid for it. That's different. One has a positive connotation, one has a negative connotation.
I can see how you said it just then, yes. I can.
No, see how you said it.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
I'd like to know why all of a sudden his name became Mr. Topeka.
I don't know. I have a very long name myself. Judith, Blum, Levy, Scheindlin. My name is very, very long. That has nothing to do with the fact that you lost your ring 3 years ago, and you can't have it back. This may be your ring. It may not be your ring. Why in the world would I ascribe to these people any kind of criminal behavior 3 years away? Now, if you told me that he was one of the people who moved your property from one place to another, I would say, aha, a light would go off in my head. Did you work for the moving company that moved her?
Never have in my life.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Well, you can't go around, accusing people of having property, stolen property, and believing that it's stolen. Return this, please. Miss Shadez?
Shadez, yes.
Yes, it's yours. Miss O'Miller said that you lost your ring. I would have felt much better about it if you had reported it to the police stolen. You did nothing. And who knows what happened to it in 3 years? It may have fallen in a truck. And 2 months later, somebody found it in a truck and said, I don't even know where this came from. Said, I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to sell it to a pawn shop and see what they give me for it. He sees it. He goes with his grandmother. He says, I only have $500. Can you lend me the other 500? I believe his grandmother when she said that he paid her back. You don't get your ring back, Miss O'Miller. She also doesn't have to pay you for embarrassing you in the store. She didn't accuse you of stealing it.
Well, when the officer came, he said that, it was stolen. And, I felt embarrassed when he comes into my job and,
You don't
she
get
made me lose time off of work. And she also had my address. I don't know how she got my new address. I just moved into a new house. I feel like she's stalking me.
She's not stalking you anymore.
She has.
She's not stalking you
been in
anymore.
and out
She
of
is
my
entitled
work.
to sue you. Listen to me carefully. She's entitled to sue you. She had a good faith basis to believe that this was her property. And quite frankly, unless you could establish to my satisfaction, which you have, that you were a holder in due course for value, which means you paid value for this ring, I might have returned it to her if I believed it was hers to begin with. But I believe that you purchased it, and I believe you purchased it in good faith with your grandmother. I believe you paid value for it, and therefore the title is clear, is in your name. Do we all understand that? Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was embarrassing, She harassed me at work.
I guess report anything you think might...
Jack versus Rouse. Step forward.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Miss Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time. And in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Miss Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about...
Says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order. But I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely in full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of '04.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me, under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400?
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders. There was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it. And I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiancé at the time, were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishak did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products. I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week,
Miss
it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishank sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later. And you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because she was selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more. Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues.
It's a case of you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,840.
The matter of Carter versus Powell.
Thank you, Bernard.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Your Honor, parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Carter, you hired the defendant to house and pet sit while you and your son went on a vacation. And according to your complaint, you came back and found your house trashed, some alcohol missing, and the place generally a disaster. How old are you, Mr. Powell?
I am 27 years old currently.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
Currently, I'm a waiter, and
what were you doing when you were engaged by Miss Carter?
Full-time college student, Your Honor.
Full-time college student at age 27?
I'm on the 10-year plan.
Where were you living?
I was living...
Why are you gazing up at the stars?
I'm sorry.
These are not hard questions, Mr.
I'm sorry,
Powell.
Your Honor.
These are not hard questions, sir.
I'm sorry.
Where were you living at the time that you were retained by Miss Carter and you were a full-time college student on the 10-year plan?
I live in a duplex near downtown San Antonio.
With whom?
With a roommate of mine.
And who supports you? It's not an answer.
The state.
How does the state support you?
Student loans, Your Honor.
You've been getting 10 years' worth of student loans?
No, that's why I've been in it for so long, because I've been working as well as going to school at certain points in time. So that's why I'm 27 and still in college.
How many credits do you have? So you don't mind if I go through this with him, do you? This
have a
is
good
fascinating.
time.
I'm going to have a good time. You know. Sometimes the job demands you have a good time. Sometimes.
I'm a little bit indecisive, Your Honor, so I've changed my major quite a few times. So probably I've accrued close to 160 hours in school.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Mr. Powell? Where does your family live, Mr. Powell?
They live in San Antonio, Texas.
Is that where you come from?
Yes, born and raised.
Are you friendly with your parents?
Yes, very much so.
Do they give you money?
When times are rough, yes.
Well, if you're 27 years old and unemployed, sir, couldn't get rougher than that.
I'm a waiter, Your Honor. I'm a waiter.
Full-time waiter or a part-time waiter? I'm going to find out where you're a full-time waiter, if you are a full-time waiter.
No, I'm not a full-time waiter, Your Honor.
All right, so a part-time waiter
30
doesn't support a duplex, Mr. Powell.
It's cheap rent.
Didn't think that this would happen to you, did you? All right, enough. Miss Carter, which one of these two gentlemen is your son?
He is the one in
that one, in the suit.
In the suit.
And they were friends?
Yes, they were friends since 1997.
All right. Stand up for a second. Your name?
Curtis Carter?
Curtis, where do you live? With your mother?
No, I have my own residence in San Antonio.
Perfect. Who supports the residence?
I do.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an investment broker.
Very nice. Did you buy that suit all by yourself?
She helped me out.
Who paid for it?
Gosh, my mother did.
Oy. What?
Gosh.
Gosh. Do you make a living?
Yes.
Okay. And you've known Mr. Powell for about 10 years?
Approximately.
Where do you know him from?
We went to high school together, and we have all kinds of friends in common.
You know he's a little flaky.
Well, he hasn't always been.
He is now. Did you recommend Mr. Powell to your mother as a house sitter?
I did.
But we had previously hired him, Your Honor, on a previous occasion, and we got along without difficulty.
How many days did he house sit on the previous occasion?
Maybe a week.
And he lived at your house?
That's correct.
How long ago?
4 years ago.
And 4 years ago, Miss Carter, was he a college student?
Yes, he was.
4 years later, he's still a college student.
That...
You should have said to yourself, something's not right there. Now, you hired him when, the second time?
I hired him February 24th of this year.
How long were you going to be away?
We went away from March 1 through the 24th of this year.
And how many animals do you have?
I have 1 dog and 1 tropical fish.
Okay. And he was to take care of the dog, the fish, the house.
That's right.
Okay. When you came home on the 24th, did you take photos of the house?
We took photos of the damage the next day or so.
I'd like to see the photos. Are you an otherwise neat person?
Not particularly.
Now, where was this brick wall?
The brick wall is outside my kitchen. Somehow, it was knocked into the driveway. A 4-foot section of it was knocked in.
Your Honor.
Okay.
It wasn't a 4-foot section. It was maybe more like 2 to 2.5 feet. It was about 15. I know because I bought the bricks. There was...
I want you to tell me, Mr. Powell, how the brick wall fell down.
All I can really tell you is I believe it was because she lives in Almas Park, which is also a basin. It floods there a lot.
Just a second. Did it flood the 3 weeks that she was gone?
No, Your Honor.
And we are not in the floodplain.
You have to give him a chance, Miss Carter. Don't interrupt him.
Either way,
Were you leaning against it?
I was leaning against it, indeed.
You were leaning against it when it fell over?
When it started to tremor, and then, boom, fell down about close to 15 feet into the driveway.
But I also have leaned against it.
I told you, don't interrupt him. So you were leaning against the brick wall, and it fell over into the driveway?
Indeed.
And you tried to fix it?
Indeed. Indeed, I did.
Did you fix it?
To the best of my ability, I had my friend over here, Jason, and his brother-in-law, who does construction and masonry work,
27 years,
helped to put the brick wall back together again. And I even planted flowers in the flower pots because I felt bad about the whole situation.
On what date, Mr. Powell, did the brick wall fall down?
Well, I'm basing this on the plaintiff's statement. She said
I don't want you.
Well,
the plaintiff is in Africa, on the plains.
Okay.
You are on her brick wall.
Okay.
So you tell me what date. Let's go back a second,
Okay.
Mr. Powell. You're 27 years old.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're a 10-year veteran of college.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many brick walls in your life have fallen down when you were leaning against them?
None since that one, Your Honor.
Before this one? Any before?
No.
So that would be an event that you would remember. Now,
Indeed.
On what date did the brick wall fall down?
February the 27th.
That would be before she left.
Oh, I thought she said she left the February the 25th. See, this is the problem here, Your Honor. It's been so long since the whole incident has occurred. I really don't. Dates are kind of a problem for me to recollect at the time.
Life is a problem for you, Mr. Powell.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Looked like there had been an ongoing fraternity party in the house. The ashtrays were overflowing with what looked like to me reefer cigarettes.
Her son's former friend, Michael Powell, damaged her home while she was on vacation. Made through parties the entire time she was gone.
Now, when did you have the first social gathering at her house?
Well, I had a few social gatherings. They were spread out, you know. She said I could have a few people over, several people over. She said there wasn't a problem with that. So I did have friends over.
That's not true.
Don't do it again. Otherwise, I'll say goodbye to you. And you don't want that to happen.
No, I don't.
How many times did you have social gatherings in the 3 weeks that you were house sitting?
3 weeks I was house sitting, probably 6, 7 times.
And give me a range of number of people that you had at the house when you had these social gatherings.
The most at one time would be 5, including myself.
Were you always inside, or did you go outside?
We went outside.
When you went outside, what did you do outside?
Smoke cigarettes.
How many bottles of Miss Carter's alcohol did you consume?
I believe her statement was 2 bottles of wine.
If you don't know, say, I don't know, I don't remember, or I drank 2 bottles.
2 bottles of wine. And a little bit of Chivas Regal that she had there. Not the whole bottle,
now,
which she claims.
The alcohol was in the bar?
It's actually in the kitchen. It's in a little drawer.
A bottle of Chivas Regal doesn't fit in a little drawer.
Well, there's plenty of cabinets in her kitchen.
So it's in a cabinet, not a little drawer.
A cabinet.
Did she have food in her refrigerator?
She had a little bit of food in her refrigerator. She also had a pantry that was well stocked with soups and the like.
Did you partake?
Yes, because that was part of the plan. She offered to let me eat and drink, so I did. I didn't have a lot of money.
Were you
at the time.
supposed to get paid for watching the house?
Yes, I believe the agreement was $10 a day for 25 days, and I was supposed to receive $250. Which I never received. I mean, she wouldn't answer back my phone calls after the first day, so I had to get an attorney because through my circle of friends.
You got an attorney?
Yeah, because I heard. Well,
you hired an attorney?
Yes, because we share. Kurt and I share. Her sons share the same friends, and so you hear a lot of rumors and hearsay. And I was hearing she was bringing detectives into the house and doing all this, meticulous research. And I felt like my best bet would be to get an attorney.
How much did you pay the attorney?
$150 to send her a letter.
What you're telling me, sir, is you paid an attorney $150 to get you $250.
Also, just to communicate, because she was not, at that point in time, was not communicating with me. So I could not...
Just answer my question. You paid an attorney $150 to send her a letter to get your pay of $250.
Also to say that if there's any kind of damage as far as the brick wall is concerned, if it was a problem, me drinking the bottles of wine, no big deal. Take it out of the $250. But then when I got served the papers, I see this long list of these.
How did the banister, this wooden banister,
get broken when I got there?
The wooden banister was broken when you got there.
Yes.
Split in two.
It was split in two.
Is that right?
Yes, it was split in two, but it was not split in two prior to my leaving on the trip.
No, just a second. That's what I'm saying to you. Was the banister split in two when he came?
Yes.
Was the banister broken before he came to house sit?
No.
Well, you have to listen to my question. When you came home, how did you find your pets?
My dog was in good condition.
Good. Well, at least he did something right. What about the fish?
The fish was still living.
Also, a blessing.
Yes, I agree.
Good. Now, there was a painting that you talk about that you have a picture of a hole in it. Tell me about the painting.
This painting is of a relative of mine.
It's a great painting, by the way.
Thank you. It's a village blacksmith. It's a family heirloom.
Tell me about the damage to the painting.
It is museum quality, and I discovered that it has a puncture and a rip or a tear in it, and the heavy gold relief frame had been broken off and damaged in it.
Was it hanging on the wall when you came home?
Yes.
But hanging on the wall damaged?
Yes.
Had it been damaged before Mr. Powell started to babysit for your house?
Not at all.
You. Nice suit.
Thank you.
Could you step up, sir? What is your name?
Barton Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, you're a neighbor of the Carters?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened in the household while Mrs. Carter and her son were in Africa.
Well, the first thing I noticed was the defendant's red car, because Miss Carter's car was gone, and it had the writing of a wax on it that would be indicative of the police impound lot in San Antonio. As time went by, the flowers started dying on the terrace and trash started piling up on the terrace. And then as more time went on, I started seeing Miss Carter's treasured dog running around the neighborhood. So I started making an effort to catch the dog and bring it back to the backyard. On the third occasion...
The third occasion the dog was...
The third occasion that the dog was running around the neighborhood, I took the dog home to find that the terrace door was wide open.
Okay. Did you go inside?
I looked in the door. I knocked on the door. I yelled for somebody inside. When I looked in the door, I noticed the back door was also wide open. So I walked in the house to release the dog into the house. I walked in to close the back door. The first thing I noticed was it looked like there had been an ongoing fraternity party in the house. There were electric guitars up on the couch. The tables were covered with booze. The ashtrays were overflowing with cigarettes and what looked like to me the burnt ends of reefer cigarettes in the ashtrays. It looked like there had been an ongoing mosh pit fraternity party, and there was a cat in the house and dog feces on the floor.
Thank you, sir.
He came by once to tell me that the dog was wandering around the neighborhood, and I didn't know who he was because I had never met him.
Mr. Powell, let me tell you that Mr. Simpson just related to me something that I believe, that he went into the house when you were not at home to return the dog to the house. You were not there. He described the inside of the house. That's all I want you to address, sir.
The inside of the house.
Yes. And I want you to bear in mind that I believe him.
Okay. I understand that. Well, when he came over to the house, if he saw beer cans, there were probably some beer cans. But that doesn't mean I drank her liquor. or drank all this wine. I mean, there wasn't wine bottles. There was just empty beer cans, which I picked up, threw away,
What about the dog feces that were there? Did you clean up that too?
I cannot, no. There were no dog feces. This
well, no.
dog
I want
is
you to bear in
14
mind.
years old.
I want you to bear in mind that I believe,
You believe him. Okay.
So if you didn't clean it up, it was there when she arrived home.
No, Your Honor. It was not there.
Well, then somebody cleaned it up.
I cleaned it up. If anything happened...
Oh, just a second. Well, you just said you didn't.
I was saying that I didn't his testimony is I don't agree with his testimony, even
All
though
right,
you
listen
do.
to me. I don't care whether you do or not.
The dog's 14 years old.
I'm telling
Your Honor.
you that I believe him. So if the dog messed in the house and you didn't clean it up, which is what you said at first, that means that she found it when she came home, unless you had Cinderella come and take care of the house at some point.
Your Honor, I took grounds to try to repair her brick wall. I tried as I could with the time that I had. Like she says, she's not this person in the first place. The house is very messy
Who
to begin
smokes?
with.
Do you?
I smoke cigarettes, yes I do.
Do you, Miss Carter?
No, Your Honor.
Who else lives in the house with you?
No one.
Cigarette ashtrays were brought from outside into the inside.
Oh,
That's why-
so unusual. People usually do just the opposite. Maybe when you graduate, you'll start doing it the other way. Most people take cigarettes and take them outside. So what you're telling me is you and your friends had cigarette smoke outside and all the dirty, disgusting cigarette butts, when you were finished smoking outside so you shouldn't smell the house, you brought them back inside.
They were cleaned and gathered in a pile, Your Honor.
Not just, you mean the cigarette butts were cleaned
It was
and gathered in a
let's call it
pile?
an organized mess. Put everything together, throw it away, put it into the trash can, and take it
No,
out.
but it
to the
hadn't been
garbage.
thrown away, sir, because he came and he found it there.
At that particular date.
All right, I had enough. Miss Carter, listen to me. How much did it cost you to fix the painting?
About $1,000.
No, show me the bill. Come on, see the bill. I finished torturing Mr. Powell. Finished torturing him. You big slob, Mr. Powell. You took advantage of the situation. Make parties in your own condo. Don't make parties in somebody else's house. It's outrageous to treat somebody else's house with such disrespect. 27 years old. Your parents should be very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
No
You're on the
damage done
I'm
to her
speaking.
painting.
You're on a 10-year plan. You'll never grow up. As long as somebody else is footing the bill, you're going to continue to be a big baby. How much did it cost you to clean up the house and to do any of the brickwork on the house?
The brickwork cost $1,285.
Clean up on the house.
I had a maid service for $40.
All right. How much did it cost you to fix the banister?
$135.
All right, it's $3,460. You better start waiting on a lot more tables and working a lot more than 30 hours a week. Do I make my...
Case number 417 on the calendar in the matter of Grimes versus Gray. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Grimes, it is your complaint that Mr. Gray, whom you had never met, caused you physical injury and also broke your cell phone when you were trying to help him. He appeared to be in some sort of predicament. Mr. Gray says that it is impossible, knowing his character, that he could have done anything like that. You work in a restaurant?
Yes.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Basbo Pizza.
And what do you do there?
I'm a waitress.
On what date did this incident occur?
September 17th of 2005.
Ever had an incident like this before?
No.
Tell me what happened, please.
As Matt Jones, my coworker, and I were exiting the restaurant, we noticed a gentleman coming down the alley, stumbling and bleeding from his head and screaming on his cell phone.
That would be this gentleman?
Yes. As a result, Matt and I decided that it was imperative that we help him. So Mr. Jones went over to lead him over to us to assist him. And in the process, Mr. Jones asked me to go ahead and get a chair for him to sit down in. And in the meantime, I was on my cell phone.
Okay, you're both outside now?
Correct.
Did you go inside the chair?
No.
What happened?
There was a chair already outside.
Where?
Outside the back door of our restaurant.
Is that where people go to sit down and relax during breaks and
Yes.
stuff? Okay, so
Yes.
you're all in the alleyway.
Correct.
Okay.
And so then I was calling on my cell phone inside to have the restaurant reopen so we could go inside and get him towels and things to assist him while he was bleeding.
What time was this?
This was probably around 11:30, 12 o'clock.
At night?
Yes, on a Saturday evening.
Go ahead.
And so I was on my cell phone to call inside for help. And as Matt Jones walked Mr. Gray up, he, instead of sitting in the chair, kicked the chair as hard as he could, therefore hitting me in the arm, the head, and dropping my cell phone to the ground. And it's smashing.
What kind of injuries did you sustain?
I had a really big bruise on my right arm, and I had a bump on my head, which then caused headaches for about 3 days afterwards.
What I read in your complaint was that the bruise on your arm, which ordinarily, other than being irritating, was a more pressing problem because you had a sleeveless wedding gown that you were wearing the next week.
Yes, it was exactly 1 week prior to my wedding, and as the week continued, the bruise got worse.
Got sort of yellow and icky.
Yes, very much so.
Did Mr. Gray say anything to you at any time?
Not really. He was screaming on his cell phone.
What was he screaming? Could you hear?
I didn't do anything. I don't understand why they did this. He was really intoxicated, so I don't think he really was making sense.
How do you know he was intoxicated?
The way that he was staggering through the alley and just his tone of voice and the things that he was saying, it just didn't make any sense. So it seemed that he had to have been intoxicated.
Did you smell alcohol? Or didn't you get that close?
I don't believe I got that close.
Did you?
Yes.
Stand up, please. Tell me your name.
My name is Matthew Jones.
You also work at the restaurant, Mr. Jones?
Yes,
What
I'm
do
the
you-
kitchen manager there.
How close did you get to Mr. Gray?
I actually went up very close to him to assist him into the chair because he needed to sit down.
Did he say anything to you?
No, he was still on his phone. He was completely oblivious to my actions to try and help him to sit down.
Could you tell what he was saying on the cell phone?
I wasn't paying attention. He was bleeding like profusely out of
From
his head.
where?
From his head, from the top of his head, around this area. And it was coming down. He was wearing a red or like a purple colored shirt, you could obviously tell that he was bleeding very bad.
You smelled alcohol?
Definitely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Gray, where had you been that evening?
Me and my buddy, we just kind of going around different bars, just having fun. And
So you started bar hopping.
pretty much, yeah.
What time?
9 o'clock?
Had you worked that day?
No.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a diesel mechanic.
You work for a company?
Yeah.
Yes. Try yes.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Sorry. Yes.
How did you end up in the alleyway outside this pizzeria?
From what I can remember, I was looking for the restroom, and I thought...
You were looking for the
Yeah.
restroom in what facility?
The bar we were at.
What's the name of the bar?
I don't know what the bar's name was.
Where do you live?
Indianapolis.
Where was this bar?
Broad Ripple.
Is that close to Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Yes, it would be out of the question, I
Yes.
assume. Had you ever been to this bar before?
Yes.
But you don't remember the name?
I don't... There's so many of them down there.
Well, how many had you been to that night?
I don't... Probably 2 or 3.
Okay, so tell me, so you're looking for the restroom in this unnamed bar, and?
And I thought the exit door was the restroom. And I walked out, and I noticed it wasn't it, and they wouldn't let me back in.
Just a second. You walked out of the back door.
Yes.
And you realized when you got outside that you went out the wrong door.
Yes.
So what did you do next, sir?
I tried to come back in. The bouncer...
Tried to come back in through which door?
Door.
The same door that you had just exited.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And the bouncer wouldn't let me back in. He said I have to walk around. I said, all right. So I guess I start walking, and next thing I know, I'm hitting the head, and that's the last thing I remember.
Who were you talking to on the phone?
It was a girl.
Who? Name?
Stephanie.
Are you making that up?
No.
Stephanie has a last name?
Um,
Dumb? Stephanie Dumb?
no, I can't remember her last name.
What's her phone number?
I don't know that.
Well, you knew it by heart, evidently.
Well, it was in my cell phone, and
What'd you call it for?
I don't know, just to call her.
You're bleeding.
Well, see, I was on the phone as I was going out the back door.
Ah, okay. Well, that's more interesting, Mr. Gray. So you were on the telephone, going to the bathroom,
Yes.
but went out the back door, talking to Stephanie, whose last name you don't remember, whose phone number you don't know, about what you don't know. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So my question to you, Mr. Gray, is were you intoxicated or not?
Yes, I was drinking. Yeah.
Oh, fine, because your answer said I wasn't drunk. I had a
Oh,
concussion.
I wasn't drunk.
What?
But I was not drunk, but yes, I had been drinking.
Were you arrested that night?
Yes, I was.
For what?
Public intox.
You think the police officer made a mistake?
I guess not, no.
So you don't remember what you did to Miss Grimes?
No, at that time, no. I still don't remember to this day.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
People get stupid.
She was assaulted by Stephen Gray while trying to help him out. Mary claims Stephen was drunk and injured from a fight.
Now, you think she's telling me the truth?
I would hope so.
Did she discuss with you replacing her cell phone?
No, I've never spoken
Is that right?
That's correct.
How come you didn't try to contact him and ask him to resolve this before you came to court?
I didn't actually know how to get a hold of him, and in addition to that, I didn't really know, under the circumstances,
What kind
if I
of
would
nut
get
he
things
was?
replaced or not.
Was the cell phone broken?
Yes.
Do you have a bill for it?
Yes, I
I'd
do.
like to see it.
And I also have the broken cell phone, if you'd like to see that.
I don't need to see it.
Okay.
I believe you. Have any photographs of your injuries or any medicals?
Yes.
I'd like to see that too.
And that is after having a makeup artist cover with makeup on my arm. So,
Head cleared up okay?
yes, had headaches for about 3 days, and so did my husband Gary, unfortunately, as a result of all of this.
Sympathy headache?
Sympathy headache,
For dealing with me for the week, yes.
Better remember that when you decide to start a family.
We have 2 children, so.
You have 2 children?
Yes. He's a wonderful father, that's why.
Oh, well, wonderful. Did you have sympathy pains then, too?
Oh, yes.
And sympathy weight gain.
Sympathy weight, too.
Well, Mr. Gray, you know why you're a very lucky man, sir?
What's that?
Because Miss Grimes is a very reasonable lady. She's only suing you for $500. You think that's reasonable?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. People get stupid when they drink too much. Sometimes you get away with it your whole life. Most people don't. They end up either hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. You've had a very limited exposure to what can happen if you drink too much. And maybe you can't drink just a little bit. Maybe you just, will always drink too much.
Yeah.
But she could have been seriously injured if the chair, instead of hitting her in the arm and over here, hit her in the eye, you could have knocked out her eye. We would have been in a totally different place. You could have been dumb enough to get behind the wheel of your car and killed a child. There are all kinds of things that happen when you drink too much. It's not worth it.
No.
Just not worth it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Ms. Santos, according to your complaint, the defendant drove your car with your permission.
Yes.
Had an accident. You wanted to pay for the damage to your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Allison has some excuse. She has a counterclaim. She says you assaulted her, moved out of an apartment that you were sharing together. You took furniture that didn't belong to you, and you owe her for some utility bill. How long were you roommates?
10 months.
When did this incident happen with your car?
October 25th of 5 at about 11:46 a.m.
And when had you moved in together?
February 1st, 2005, so about 10 months.
When did you move out?
The last day of November, so by December 1st.
Tell me about the accident, Miss Allison. How did you have an accident with her car?
I was in the parking garage of our hotel that we both worked for at the time, and I was in agreement with her that I was to pull the car out to bring it to the front so we could get into the vehicle to take her break and go home. At that time, when I pulled out of the garage, I nicked the back quarter panel and door on the passenger side on a podium that stands very tall in the garage.
So you hit an object that wasn't moving?
Correct.
Clearly, then, your fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
So then, clearly, you're responsible to pay for the damage.
Your Honor, yes, I'm responsible for the damages due as she is to my eye.
Clearly, you're responsible for the damage to her car.
Certainly responsible.
Good. May I see pictures of the damage to your car?
This is the whole car. That's the damage.
That's the whole car. This is the damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Whole car damage.
Your Honor, I did suggest that she call the police or make a statement.
Shh. Did you get an estimate for fixing the car?
Yes, I got 3.
May I have it, please? Show these to the defendant.
Thank you. Your Honor, may we still ask what time this was taken?
I don't care what time it was taken.
Well, she could have done more damages to the car, Your Honor, because she did not make a file or a complaint at the time. I repeatedly asked.
You told me, madam, that you scratched the quarter panel?
Correct.
How much do you think, based upon your vast experience with cars, it would cost to fix that?
I'm not sure, and I do not fully believe that she did not do more damage to the car following the incident, but I would say about $800, less than $1,000 for sure.
Okay, good. She's only suing you for $700. So that would be a reasonable figure. Now, after the incident happened, you claim she assaulted you. Why don't you tell me about it?
On November the 19th, I called into work, wherein my boss, who is to the right of me here as a witness, I called into work due to being ill with a kidney infection. Melissa came home from work. I was outside, upstairs, where our laundry is, where my brother, who's to the left of me, and another friend of ours who was present at the time, were upstairs of the apartment. I left the back door unlocked, and I left my keys and my cell phone inside of our apartment. Melissa came home because she has psychological problems.
Just tell me what happened.
She came in, dropped all the shades, locked all the doors. She did try to call my cell phone a couple times. She located my cell phone inside the house, so that means she realized that I had to be around. I come downstairs to come back into the house. I'm locked out of my own house. And we called for my brother's phone to inquire with her why she locked the door and if she would please come unlock it. She didn't answer the first call. The second call she did answer. She said she would be there soon. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes later, she shows up fully dressed, hair done, shoes on, to open the door. When very easily she could have slipped on a robe and opened the door for her roommate, who has been her roommate and friend for 10 months. Friend for longer than that. But she chose not to. Verbally, we got in a large argument, and her instability issues and safety and security issues that she feels we have discrepancies over, and she hit me. at our front door. As we're arguing, she put her face in my nose, face to face. I've never been that close in contact with anyone. Stepped back and welled me with her right arm in my left eye. Then she went for me a second time, and I pushed her back and told her she was crazy and to remove her hands from me, and there was no reason for this. That if there is a problem, then we are to address it as roommates and friends and to work it out as responsible people. That there was no reason why she should have locked the door and left me outside of my own house. And yes, I did wreck her car, and I told her I would cover those charges. But when she assaulted me, Your Honor, that was incorrect, and that was not right. May I make another statement? Okay.
I don't see how she lasted 10 months.
I don't either.
Go.
I did come home from her birthday party. I wasn't actually working, and I entered the house, and no one was there. No one was in the front. No one was in the back. You checked the back room?
Don't speak!
No problem, Your Honor. I went to the back porch. I didn't see anyone. I called her about, I would say, 3 times. I needed to get in the shower. I was on my way to another birthday party. So, living in a neighborhood we live in, downtown St. Petersburg, where there's lots of bums and so on, I went ahead, locked the door, took a shower. They called me while I was in the shower, so of course I wasn't going to answer. Then I got out, answered, and said I'll be there in a minute. I threw on my clothes, did not have my shoes on, and opened the door, and that's when she went irate on me as she walked in.
Well, tell me what happened.
Then as she came in and started yelling at me, she started telling me she can't live with someone that's so uncomfortable because I have to have the doors locked, and I have to have the shades down when no one's there. And then I went back in my room, got ready. Then I came out to walk out to go to the birthday party, and she just started chasing me and being very hostile and aggressive. Came following me basically all the way to the front door. And then I did push her away from me, and she pushed me back. And then I walked out and I left.
Did you hit her in the eye?
No.
Can I say something? Shh. I was there. I was in the house at the time.
I didn't say yes.
And her brother was at the house, but he was not present in the room it happened in.
She says that you hit her in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
That you punched her in the eye.
No.
She punched you with a hand or a fist?
It was not a full close punch, Your Honor. It was in between a slap and a fist. She did it quickly.
Just answer my question. I asked you, was it a punch or a slap?
It was neither. It was a cup of a hand, not fully formed into a fist.
Did you take photographs of your injuries?
Actually, I did not.
Did you see a doctor for your injuries?
I did not. I did call the police station. I filed a complaint via the phone. Did not file one on paper.
When you filed a police report over the phone, did they tell you to come in and file it in person?
They said I would have had to call day up.
Did you? They say you had to come in and file it in person.
No, they did not, Your Honor.
Did you get a copy of the police report that you filed over the phone?
No, Your Honor.
Because you have to go in person and file a police report.
They said they had to come to my home where it happened, Your Honor.
Well, you were home anyway. You were sick. Why didn't you let them come to your house?
I quite honestly did not want to cause more of a scene than what already was caused. I feel for her and her insecurities and her problems
Miss
she
Allison,
suffers from.
Get over it.
Get over it?
Yes, get over it.
Well, then she should get over her car injury as well.
No. Listen to me.
She damaged my eye.
Listen to me. If someone punched me in the eye and damaged my eye, my dear, I would have called the police and had them come to the house or gone there to file a report.
Well, I feel for someone who's mentally ill like she is, and I did not want to prosecute her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Where is the...
Former friend, Chasey Allison, owes for crashing her car in a parking garage. Chasey is countersuing, claiming Melissa punched her in the eye.
If someone hit me and I was home that day anyway, I would have filed a police report. I would have taken a photograph because you say your eye was damaged.
There was no huge marking. It hurt my head. I had a headache for hours upon hours. She did not knock me a fist in the eye and cause a mark on my eye.
All right, $700. Now, when did you move out?
That same, a week and a half later.
What furniture did you leave with?
The entertainment center, the couch, the chair, and the coffee table, and a lamp.
What did she take?
Her dresser, her bed, everything that was basically everything else that was hers.
Did you take your bed?
Yes.
Did you take your dresser?
Yes.
All right, well, she took her dresser, you took your dresser. She took her bed, you took your bed. But the things that you purchased jointly, you took.
Mm-hmm. And she can really have them because I'm paying for them to be stored right now as it is, so.
You're willing to give them to her if she wants them?
If she wants them, yeah.
You want those things back?
I want the money that we agreed to split. No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
You
never agreed, Your Honor.
Listen to me. You have your choice. You get nothing, or you get the furniture. She's willing to give it to you. Do you want the furniture?
No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
Well, that's what you complained about. You said she took the furniture.
I complained that she took my part of the money that we agreed we would sell and split if we moved out.
Well, here you go. You don't even have to bother. She's going to give you all the things you could sell it. You can keep it all. She doesn't want it. That's even better.
Why
that gives you 100%.
If she didn't want it, why did she take it?
Because
we had
just
to
a second. I have other things to do today. I still have other cases to hear today. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. She says you want the furniture.
Take the furniture and sell it. Keep the whole thing. You just said to me, we had an agreement that we would sell the furniture and split it. She doesn't want to split it. She wants you to take all the furniture. So you can
I'm
sell
not
it.
going to store the furniture, Your Honor, now that I'm out of that residence. We were to sell it there at that residence.
You don't have to store it. Sell it.
Your Honor, she took our belongings.
Miss Allison.
Can I submit my...
No. Submit nothing. I think what you have to do is you really have to grow up. And I don't know, what kind of work? What kind of work do you do?
I do marketing and promotions for an entertainment event guide.
You have to give us $700 to fix her car. You wanted to take the furniture? You have 5 days to get the furniture. Where is the storage
It's at my mom's location. My mom's house.
So it's not in a storage facility.
No, I'm paying her to store it there.
That's a lot of baloney. You're not paying your mother to store it there. I don't like people who give me baloney. 5 days from today, she's to come with a police escort. You have to have the stuff available to her if she wants it. After that, you can dispose of it. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'll prepare the order. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
By your excuse, you may step out.
It just kind of all boiled down to just one argument. I think the damages done to her car definitely infuriate.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I'm okay except for this, Bert. You know, these kinds of cases always give me a little bit of a palpitation. Mr. Hogan, you and the defendant have unfortunately have a child together. And it appears that each of you, according to the lawsuit and the counterclaim that I have embarked upon a course of conduct designed to make both yourselves and your child miserable. That be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
The lawsuit involves allegations of false charges, both criminal and charges to the Child Protective Services that each of you made against the other, each of you claiming that these charges were false and causing pain, suffering, aggravation, etc., for which you wish to be compensated. How long of a relationship did you have with each other, Mr. Hogan?
Almost 5 years.
And when during the did you decide to have a child?
Second year.
Was this a decision that you made with some thought, or was it an accident?
It happened.
It happened. The weather happens. You're supposed to use a little bit of judgment when you have a child. Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
2.
Who do they live with?
Their mother.
Were you married to their mother?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
10 years.
Do you see those children?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So it sounds as if that's going okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, is it, or are you just
Yes.
giving me a yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am? Otherwise, it's going to get very boring, Mr. Hogan.
Everything's going great, yeah.
Now, this child that you have with Miss Smith is 4?
Soon will be.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
I gather from reading these papers that each of you wants custody of this little boy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How often do you see the boy?
I haven't seen him in a month.
Why not?
Because of his drug use.
Mr. Hogan, have you submitted to drug test?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
Probation officer.
What are you on probation for?
Drug.
For drugs?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time you were incarcerated for drugs?
June.
June of this past year?
Yes, ma'am.
You ever been arrested for drugs?
No, ma'am.
You use drugs?
No, ma'am.
You have no objection to being drug tested?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Hogan, you have any concrete information that Miss Smith uses drugs?
No concrete, no, ma'am.
Then I'm going to tell you, Mr. Hogan, the likelihood of you getting custody of your son are slim to none. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't visit him if you're drug-free. You understand that?
That's correct.
Because you made a baby together. If you made a poor choice, his drug use wasn't a surprise to you, right?
Yes, it was.
Starting when?
When I kicked him out of my house in June.
You mean you didn't know before June that he was using drugs?
Not intravenously.
I don't care whether he was breathing it, snorting it, taking it by mouth, whatever it was. What difference does it make if he's shooting himself up or if he's snorting something? Nothing. You picked him, and you have to see to it that the boy has a relationship with him, but the boy has to be safe. Now, Mr. Hogan, I'm going to hear your lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you that you're going to have a couple of minutes to explain to me why you believe that I should award you $3,000 for unpaid rent and false charges that Miss Smith filed against you. Go.
I've tried for a long time to make our relationship work, and I love my child, and I took care of my child. And 4 times she's left and begged to come. At one time I had the child. I had physical custody of the child, a protective order against her.
And then the courts returned him to his mother.
No, ma'am.
She took him and then went to court.
That's right. Well, it's still no custody order.
Well, somebody better get custody.
I'm in the process of doing that.
Mr. Hogan, is what you want to be able to resolve this matter with Miss Smith so that you stop torturing each other?
Yes. The reason I did this is because I've put my heart and soul into our relationship and tried to have a family, and she keeps bugging out. And
well, Mr. Hogan, you have to understand, if you started to seriously abuse drugs, and whenever you take illegal drugs, to me that's a serious abuse, especially if you're living with somebody and involved in a relationship with as a child, that's not really trying to make a relationship work. A relationship cannot flourish when one of the parties is using drugs, Mr. Hogan. Period. Cannot. Impossible. because drugs take hold of you and it becomes more important than anything else. How long have you been abusing drugs? Up until June?
As a teenager.
As a teenager? Yes. Well, then, Mr. Hogan, you understand the grip that drugs has on people.
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand that you want to see this boy, but you have to be realistic. Custody is not something that's going to happen quickly, if at all, because if he's safe with his mother, nobody's going to take a chance on somebody who's a recovering drug addict, at least for a while. But if what he wants is a relationship with him, you really have to try to work that out.
That's fine. I just need something to state that he is clean while my child is in his custody.
How often are you drug tested by a probation officer, Mr.
Once
Hogan?
a month.
And how many months have you been clean?
Since June.
You know anything to the contrary?
Yes, ma'am. I had a 50B, which is a protective order for him to stay away from my child and I. I had temporary custody of my child, and he had visitations, which was every other weekend, from 6 o'clock Friday night, 6 o'clock Sunday evening. The last weekend, January 1st, he brings Tristan home at 3:45. In the meantime, I look at Brian's hands, and he's got track marks on his hands. His hands are swollen. He's claiming he has to go to work on New Year's Day.
That's a false statement.
Well, I think, Mr. Hogan, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have a hair follicle test. And a hair follicle test is going to be able to determine when and how long ago and in what quantity you used drugs. That's going to make her more comfortable. Are you ready to do that?
Yes, but I would like to state that he's not entirely safe in her hands.
Just a second. Are you ready to do that today?
Yes.
Now, you wanted to tell me that the child isn't completely safe with her.
No, ma'am. In the 8th month of 2005, the DSS gave me an order to stop unsupervised visitation with his mother because of alcohol abuse.
Who reported the alcohol abuse?
Several people.
Have you been alcohol tested?
Yes, ma'am.
You prepared to be randomly tested for the next 2 months, twice a week?
Yes, ma'am.
He has some basis for saying that you drink a little too much. I know he does. And you know he does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making a baby is easy. Being a mother is more difficult. That means that if your son, who's 3 years old, gets up in the middle of the night because he's got a stomach ache, because he's got a fever, his mother shouldn't be blacked out somewhere on a couch because she had a little too much to drink.
Right.
Well, we're going to make arrangements for you, Mr. Hogan, to have that hair follicle test. If the drug test that you're going to have done shows that you haven't used drugs in the last 10 months, I'm sure that the court will take that into consideration when fixing an order of visitation to make it unsupervised. If, however, the drug test shows that you have used drugs since June, 2 things are going to happen. A, your probation's going to be violated. You're going back to jail. What's your sentence that's hanging over your head?
120 days, I think.
It's going to get unsupervised visitation with the child. So if you had a misstep in January or in December, I would suggest that you come clean. Do you understand? Because once you have the drug test, it's in black and white, and it's going to your probation officer. Now, do we still want to take a drug test?
That would be fine.
Let's get it. You too. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in immigration. Brian Hogan is back in the courtroom with his decision on taking a drug test. The mother of his son, Heather Smith, has accused him of shooting drugs.
All rise. Yeah, this is a recall of case number 486 on the calendar in the matter of Hogan versus Smith. Parties are reminded you're still under oath. You may be seated.
Mr. Hogan, I'm not going to substantially and severely dress you down, but I have been advised that at this time you are declining to take the hair follicle test. Just listen to what I'm saying to you. It seems to me that you legitimately would like to be a parent to this new baby and to your other 2 children. But according to you, you've had a lifelong drug habit. And the fact that you've declined to take this drug test now suggests to me that you still need some help, sir. I cannot urge you in any stronger terms that the time to get the help was yesterday. And if that means that you have to check yourself into a long-term program to finally put your life in order, it's the time to do it. Otherwise, you're going to be dead. How old are you?
40.
You want to be dead by the time you're 45? That's what happens. Don't be stupid. You have 3 children. You say you see your 2 older children regularly. I don't know whether you do or you don't. Certainly somebody who has an extensive drug history isn't the kind of parent that these children deserve. You still have 40 years of life, Mr. Hogan, but you're not going to be able to enjoy them if you continue to abuse drugs. Be smart. Get the help that you need. In the meantime, your case is dismissed until you're ready to come back to court. Take that drug test that you volunteered to take. Right now, since you declined to...
Xin chào mọi người. Ở video trước, mình đã hướng dẫn cho mọi người bóc xong được phần mặt nạ con Batman như thế này. Và video lần này, mình sẽ hướng dẫn mọi người móc phần áo choàng của con Batman. Để móc phần áo choàng, mọi người sẽ lên cho mình 18 chân mũi đính. Sau đó mọi người sẽ bỏ qua cho mình 2 châm mũi, móc cho mình vào châm mũi thứ 3, một mũi nửa, một mũi kép đơn, và mình sẽ móc 16 mũi kép đơn trên hàng này. Rồi, mình đã hoàn thành xong hàng móc đầu tiên của chiếc áo choàng. Và bây giờ mình sẽ móc hàng số 2. Hàng số 2, mọi người lên cho mình 2 bính. Quay lại và sẽ móc cho mình một mũi nửa kép giảm. Và sau đó móc cho mình tiếp 10 mũi nửa kép. Đâu, 12 mũi nửa kép. Sau đó ở 200 mol. Rồi, mình đã hoàn thành xong hàng móc số 2. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc hàng số 3. Mọi người lên cho mình 2 bính, lật lại và móc cho mình 200 mũi đầu tiên. Mọi người sẽ móc cho mình một mũi nửa kép giảm. Sau đó móc tiếp cho mình 10 mũi kép đơn. Sau đó 200 mũi cuối cùng, mọi người sẽ móc cho mình một mũi kép giảm. Rồi, Vậy là mình đã hướng dẫn mọi người hoàn thành xong được hào móc số 3 của chiếc áo choàng như thế này.